and welcome back to the only show that breaks down, cracks up, skews, and reviews each week's DC Comics. I'm Damian Wayne's bully at Gotham Heights High School, Eric Shea.
And I am the purveyor of positivity, Jim Warner.
And this is the Weird Science DC Comics Podcast, episode number 506.
506, legacy number 506, Eric, as we go into this week's books. Not a lot of books this week, but we have Eric Shea back fully. We ended up having you show up last week for the ill-fated, it seems, Batman review.
Ill-fated?
Getting some crap for that. I don't understand, but here we are. We don't have a ton of books this week.
I'm out again.
Yeah, you're out. I was waiting. I was going to be like, okay, which book will it be to get Eric out? It might be the Superboy. So remember, though, You said if you give a 10 out of 10, that you are done. I think that if you were fully, you'll just swing that of like any certain book. You're just like, give that a 10 out of 10. I am out. We have some pretty cool things going on as we get back into the swing of things. And I'm interested in some of the things that you have been reading while you are away. And also, some things that I need you to guide me through, because while I do want to give a shout out to everybody that did fill in, did an awesome job, all that shout out. It is an interest to me of like, what does he think of that Superboy book still?
I'll never tell.
There's a bunch of books that when you ended up going away, I had to continue on, and they were.
I went to prison, didn't I?
They were straight. Maybe I'll give a theory in a little bit that I actually haven't brought up yet. But the idea where there are books like Joker, the Man Who Stopped Life. Like I hated that book so much that I actually cursed you out while we're doing it, and then I had to do it, and I did it with Aiden. A shout out there, but I just kept thinking that son of a bitch, this is the book that he likes.
But what about the faux Joker, Jim?
I'm like, oh my God, I have to do this, the poison. All those things were like, these aren't Jimmy books. These are
what are Jimmy books?
I don't know. Who knows? Well, we're going to be having one in this. It's the Joker One Operation Joker manga.
Oh.
There you go, a Jimmy book, but you'll never do that, right? You won't tell. You never do that. You're missing out. A lot of people, another person this week told me that their favorite book right now is Superman versus Meshy. It's the hit. I don't
even know what a Meshy is.
That is food, Eric. He's against
food. Superman versus food?
A lot of people were calling it Superman versus Meatball, but I said, what? Eric Shea's not in that book. Oh, my goodness gracious. But here we are, episode 506. Before we go on and get into these books, let me remind you to go over to our website, WeirdScienceDCComics.com. Check out written reviews. Also, go to the Twitters at WeirdScienceDC. Check out our YouTube show. What is that? Weird Science Comics. It's more of a channel, not a show. I thought I was going to get this right. Now, I end up where I don't know if people say that I went through this intro easier without you, because I said at one point, I'm always nervous that you're going to make fun of me. So I ended up doing it. But I did say at one point, it really is a dud when you have to do this intro by yourself and you're just reading stuff. And it's not very fun. Anytime you do stuff by yourself, well, almost everything, Eric, if you know what I mean.
No, everything.
Everything. It's not as fun. But also go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Weird Science, where you can get a bunch of shows. You can get this show in advance, early access each week. One of the big things that me and you do each and every week, and it's the big play, it's the Weird Science Patreon only Badass Spotlight, Eric. And it's 2 books picked by the badasses that get fresh crew. They ended up picking Wesley Dodds' The Sandman #1 and World's Finest Teen Titans #4. Amazingly enough, not the books I thought they would pick, Eric. I said last week.
Think?
I think I said Wesley Dodds' Sandman #1 and Batman and Robin. I think those were, so I got half. I didn't think World's Finest Teen Titans. I mean, who would have thunk that, Eric? That book.
It's a darling.
A couple of people got a hold of me with that one, too, and said, yeah, I kind of agree with you guys. It's not that great. It's a book that kind of is in like a weird limbo. I don't know why it exists.
And the weird part about it is I just kind of want to spin off where I just deal with Bumblebee and Harold, and their relationship and becoming superheroes together. It's the best part of the book.
It was the best part of the book, but we talk about that and the Wesley Dodds Sandman as well in an episode that was about an hour and a half long. So if you want to listen to that, you can go over to the Patreon. Again, patreon.com/Weird Science. You'll help us out with everything that we do here, but also get a ton of shows, on top of that, like a cherry on that sundae.
On top.
Right there on the top there. But we'll go right into what we like to call. I'm having problems, Eric. I don't know. I keep thinking you're going to laugh at me.
Are you nervous, Jimmy?
Nervous. Like
Am I intimidating you?
It's like the first time all over again. It's like this is the
hold hands. You're getting all sweaty and clammy.
Will you go out with me, Eric? I need you to go out with me. Are we? Yeah, really. Can you imagine the picture of us at the prom? It's like it'd have to be one of those like double pictures. Like you're way up there. Are you going to end up ducking, or am I going to get on a bunch of
really
books
big fat
shit?
guys?
Well, that would be cool. That'd be neat. We have us there, and you know when they do that superimposed other thing, that's just a whopper.
You got your ear deeply pressed against my navel.
Yeah.
As we hold each other to our slow dance.
My ear pressed against your belt buckle.
It's Unchained Melodies playing, Jim.
Is that our song? I actually was going to do a couple parody songs for you. I was going to end up doing Back in the Saddle by Aerosmith for you. I thought you'd get all excited for it, but that's another one of those songs I'm like, yeah, it would just be me singing the song again.
Back in the Saddle, don't do that.
I might as well just throw it out there with that. But here is the badass roll call, Eric. It's going so smooth. Yeah, you know that I was doing a lot of rapping while you were gone. I'm not going to subject you to that. But here is that badasses we have. Stephen Dad Mitchell, David Fink, Brian David Fink ended up redoing his thing, so he's on the top. It just threw me completely off. Trevitt, Dad Nation, Eric K, Jeffrey Greek, Zach Walker, The Annihilator, Ted Probst, I Love Punchline, Stork, Michael S., Cam, Matt Razor. I have a little news with Matt Razor that I'm going to talk to you about. Niels T-Word, David Fink. So David Fink again. He's doubling it up. Holy moly. Why is that? That is very odd. Stephen Baum, Jason Colby, Sue42 to you and me, Michael G. Ken Halleck, Comic Boom Rocky, Wayne Kerr. You're back, aren't you? I can tell now you're 100% back. I kept Tommy Dreamer every time he got me depressed. Mark Jager, Bill Beer from the Bat Pod. You got Ruben, Carlos, No Wolf Marv, Matthew Arapia, Luke Hollywood, Simon, Luis, Manship, Andrew Belfast, Swanee, Anthony G, Josh Vermillion, Batman Beyond, Mark Premier, Brandy Murray, and Double A Ron in Minnesota. I had to rush those people. Forgive me.
You didn't have to.
I ended up saying that I had news with Matt Razor. It wasn't. It was actually Matthew Rapier, who actually got hold of me.
That's right. Fuck you, Matt Razor.
Yeah, me and Matt do a bunch of stuff together. That's old news. He's old news now.
Old news, Dr. Matt.
Matt Rapier wants to maybe get a action figure podcast together for the Patreon possibly. So that might be something coming up. I thought he might be like hinting that I would do it. I'm like, you're asking the wrong guy, but I'm going to talk to some people and hopefully they can do that because he's really into that. And there is the Boys Toys, channel over at the Slack. And that's one of the other things. If you join in the Patreon, you could go and be on the Slack and talk to all of us. That's what you want to do, right? Here's the thing, Eric. This is where I said, you stepped away, right? We know this. So you step away. And I was talking to you at first, desperately just begging you to not step away. But you said, hey, I need some space. I need some time. And this day and age, you can't push people or then you get canceled. So I had to step back there. I'm like, all right. Right. So as it went on, weeks are going by, podcasts. So I would say to you, hey, this book's bullshit. This is that. I kept sending you some songs. And suddenly there was a point where you were real nice to me. Like I'm saying, like I sent you a song and you're like, that is really good. I really think that's, I'm like, I told there's a bunch of people I told, like, I'm telling you, everybody, this is just on the down low, but I think Eric might have been killed by Jess and now she's trying to cover it up. I really, it felt like it was Jess talking like what she thought you would say to me. It didn't feel right. Like, and then, okay, well, I'm going to send him something else. And you're like, oh, thanks for sending me that. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, what is going on? I'm like, this is all it took. You step away a little, and now you're Mr. Nice Guy. I was liking it. I ended up where I had that,
you thought there was conspiracies going on while I was dead.
Well, I did. Well, that I didn't like, but I like being treated nicely. That Big Sean deal, you're like, oh my God, that's really good. And I was thinking about that song the other day. I'm like, what is this guy? What is going on? Here's the thing. Usually I send you a song. I mean, it's one step too far for you to even listen to them. then yet come back with a nice compliment? Holy
Look,
moly,
it's hard
so
sometimes.
excited.
You send it to me, I have the laptop open, Jess is sitting there, and she's watching TV or something. I'm just got to, listen to some song, especially if I haven't vetted it yet, because you might be saying some horrible shit to her.
It's usually, most of the time, if I'm talking about Jess, it's the idea that you're not marrying her yet, which might cause a conversation with you two. But I'd rarely say anything about her really mean. I did do a song this week that I mentioned her. Shout out to Lady Jess, and we might hear that by the end of the podcast. So we'll see. But I just wanted to. I thought you were dead. I thought you were gone. I thought that something happened. You were killed. Things weren't adding up, especially you being nice. But that is the intro. Thanks everybody for listening. We out of here.
Bye,
thanks
everybody.
All of the patrons, all
week.
of that, and we're going to get into these books. Like you said, we don't have a ton of books this week. Me and Eric are going to be talking a couple, and then Simon is going to show up, and drunk-ass Luke Hollywood. So we're going to go off to that right about now. Welcome back, Eric. I'm just going to keep every week. I'll just keep playing that song. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Here we
That's
are.
That's funny, because yesterday was Friday the 13th, so I had a Friday the 13th marathon, and Friday the 13th Part 6, we have Horseshack in the beginning of that movie. And all I could think about was Welcome Back, Kotter.
I just think that I said that because you're a sweat hog here.
Yeah, I know.
The joke returns. And that's basically the only marathon you'll ever be doing. Oh, my. I ended up being reminded...
What marathon are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't know. A marathon of hate. I ended up where me and Zach Walker, we're going to talk a little Avengers yesterday for our Marvel podcast, but he had to head off to a Friday the 13th party where he was dressed up as Jason. And I thought, okay, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of those at the party, the Friday the 13th party, right?
Is it a costume party? Because, are you going to pick different characters in the franchise? Is everybody just going to be a different version of Jason or the same version of Jason?
I don't know. I think that you just pick characters.
Or is Zach just dressing up and it's not a costume party?
It might not have been a costume party. I have no idea.
Sounds like a move I would do.
I would show up as Captain Kirk in a weird roundabout way to get me to Michael Myers to then get me to Friday the 13th, but I'd be full out Captain Kirk. The funniest thing ever was the party where me and my buddy Pete went, and he ended up having the Spock ears but the yellow shirt on, and people were yelling at him, and he thought it was funny. It was so funny. I thought it was so funny, and then I would say to them, they're like, oh man, don't you know that's messed up? And I'm like, no, he's Luke Skywalker, not Han Solo. And then they would think, what is this guy getting involved? He's not clever. I'm like, oh, well, but here we are. Welcome back, Eric. And I hope that me and you can skew and review things as we have done in the past, because a lot of people did end up mentioning that the fun factor of an Eric Shea was gone. And I thought, they talking about this fun factor. The guy, when we end up really, if you write down the scores, I think that my scores a lot of time are a lot more positive, but suddenly it's,
not fun.
It's negative Jimmy. Well, when I'm there, and again, shout out to everybody that I did the stuff with. I really do appreciate it. And we will have everybody back on at certain points, including today. We're going to have Simon on later. So I'm going to lean on some people of things that me and you wouldn't normally do. But it is a different role. When I end up doing something with somebody else that I haven't talked to before or, limited time, I can't skew and review the way that I would with you. And there are some books, I said to you, there are books where they are like Eric books. And I end up, a little bit, I felt weird.
It's a little dense. Jimmy can't pay attention.
Well, I like to be able to kind of tune out some of the things and make some jokes. The joke time is the extra time where you're talking a lot. And I'm thinking, ooh, there's a joke, or I had a sound effect. That's another thing that people said. It's like, without Eric, you're not doing the sound effects. I said, it's like I'm now white-knuckle driving. I got to get this thing through. I don't want to sound like an idiot. So with you back.
Now you can sound like an idiot. It's good.
A lot of sound effects, Eric. We're going to have a ton of those, but we're going to start with, is this the biggest book of the weekend? Batman and Robin, number 2. You don't think Wesley Dodd's the Sandman, number 1?
I told you on Thursday it's not.
Batman, the City of Underscore Darkness thing that you didn't say that. That's what I'm talking with Simon about. I always keep I can't remember the name of that book. It eludes me, Eric. I'm looking at Batman City of Madness. I'm leaning
on Simon hard.
Yeah, really leaning on him so hard.
Batman underscore City. .exe.
I might end up breaking his back. I lean on him so hard, but that'll be later.
Call me Bane.
Batman and Robin #2, and it's written by Joshua Williamson with art by Simone DeMaio, Steve Wands on the letters. Simone does it all. A triple threat that I didn't really like, and I think that that's one of the big things in this book, and I don't know if you would agree with me. You usually don't. But when you end up, if you looked at this book quick, like, don't read it. You see it on the shelf, and yeah, really. I mean, who wants to do that? You go. And if you did page through real quick without really paying much attention, I think that you would think, boy, this looks like a really cool book. This looks like the art's pretty cool. When you actually go and have to rely on it, almost like me, not having you around, you end up not being able to lean on much, and it gets a little disjointed. It's hard to see, and some of the big moments, wow moments, end up being things that they don't really play out on the page and get a little bit confusing.
Like, it looks very dynamic at times, but even the dynamic aspects that you're going for with, like we talked about before we even got on, where Batman is falling from the sky with a bunch of ravenous bats swarming him. You and I first looked at him like, dude, it looks like he's falling through a skylight and glass shards are around him.
Yeah. To me, it looks like he's jumping into a church going through the stained glass windows. And when you then look, okay, so you're not getting, but it looks cool. But again, it's that weird play, and
you have to take a step back to really appreciate what's going on here. But when you take that step back, it actually takes you out of the flow of the story that you're progressing.
Exactly. And I think maybe the angle should take a step back, too, because it's not really giving you a lot. But we do start out... Yeah, we do. It's the dangle of the angle of the meat of the heat. You end up with years ago, Eric, you have Damien, and they're showing this thing. Now, in this, why are we doing this scene? You start out, you could say, it's because we're back to the Batman and Robin dynamic. We want to show this whole play of how Damian was before he ended up going and living with his dad and things like that. This might be the nicest Damian pre-Batman that we've seen. This is them trying to break him down, right? I mean, he thinks that bats are cute. He ends up being this, and he has what is called Mistress Harsh.
His teacher, Mistress Harsh.
Thought it was Talia at first. You thought that he had said, because they said, oh man, cute is not a word for a demon, where you end up having this teacher say that to him because he says that the bat's cute. And he ends up, Damien says, I heard one of the guards say it, Mistress Harsh. You thought it said, I heard one of the guards say it, Mistress Harsh.
Harsh.
Like, you're harshing on my buzz here.
To be fair here, I did read that part without my glasses on first thing in the morning, and I can't see without my glasses.
Also, we both thought this was Talia. We both thought this was Talia, and I thought what it was doing is like, okay, Mistress Harsh, like he's throwing shade at her. It didn't feel like Damien, so I went and I did look just to make sure, and as far as I can see and tell, this is a character, Mistress Harsh. I wish that it was kind of, you almost want Talia to come in the room at one point and say, how are things going, Mistress Harsh? And they're going well, madame, and at least we know that,
madame. Not madam, but madame.
No, madame. And, no, hey, things are going good, gentlemen. Like, what are you talking about? I'm a lady. Yeah, get out of here. So the whole play, though, is this Damien, he's kind of a kid. He thinks that the bat's cute.
He's given a bat as a present. He thinks it's cute. Now, Mistress Harsh has to tell him you can't be loving things that are cute, especially if you have to meet your father. And what you're going to do once you do meet your father, so I'm going to murder this bat in front of you and put you on the path to be the animal lover that you are in every continuity once we had Bat Cow. And it's such a weird idea because it's because of this intro scene where this cute bat is murdered right in front of a young Damien that later on when his father is being swarmed by I don't know. What do you call a pack of freaking bats?
A gaggle?
A swarm? A gaggle? I don't know. But a pack of bats. Ravenous bats. He's like, I could throw this flashbang and I'll be able to blind him. No, father, because you could hurt some of them too. You know what? You're right, Dave. I'm like, please, we are in a dire situation. People are getting kidnapped. Fuck the bats up. Just do something, please.
There's a time when maybe you have to push that a little aside, especially when you're falling to your death. Like, you have bats just...
I need C-3PO there to tell me the odds on this one, because how many bats are actually might get hurt here?
Well, that's true. Also, they seemed horned up. I mean, they are humping his leg profusely is what I get, right?
This? The bats, Wally's mom this week? What is wrong with you?
Well, he ends up saying it's a pheromone thing. I think that it is an attractor, and they are trying to hump his leg. And that Damien's small. He doesn't know. He thinks that gives you rabies. Oh, he actually, when Batman's like, good job, he's like, I really wanted to know if I was pregnant. But you end up where that combo there. You have the start to have, Damien, he's an animal lover. He's a kid. He likes this, Mistress Harsh says. No, and really goes with the idea, feelings make you weak. You can't have these feelings.
Close yourself off.
You're not reacting the way you should. You're not, as good as you can be. It almost feels like it's like the Damian Wayne with the animals. That's like what Joker always thinks of Batman and the Bat family. Like it's going to end up where, with them. Yeah, you're like, you're weaker with your animal love. Like it's weird to play this, but I said, are we just getting full out that this is shush? Because then later it looks like another person is involved, and it's weird, Eric. Shush! You end up having the shush here, and you have these things, and it feels like it's too easy. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Well, no, that's the whole play, because we have shush here. We have the idea of the animals and stuff like that. No, I'm saying we have shush in this whole thing. She's, wrapped up like Hush, a female Hush, essentially, we're going to call Shush. And we have her being like the ringleader of our group of animal thieves and Gotham rogues that we have with Killer Croc, Orca, the DNA splice terrible trio that we have in this. And it's a weird thing that we're playing with animals this whole time because, we are now like getting a doctor who's like who does DNA splicing, almost getting to the point in Batman Beyond when you would have animal people hybrids, like who are part of the Joker gang and stuff like that. So like this seems like the beginning of that aspect, but we have all this animal stuff going on where it's not only Damian, like, thinking the Bat's kid at the beginning and Mistress Harsh, killing the Bat in front of him, but even later on when whoever this mysterious person is who's actually in charge of Shush and the rest of the animal gang that we have going on here, they talk about the idea of where Batman stole that symbol. Like the idea of the Bat itself isn't even something that is Bruce Wayne's. And then you and I going through the book thinking, okay, well, we have Damian Wayne. He's attending high school for the first time, public high school, not like, the,
Gotham Academy or whatever.
Gotham Academy, yes, thank you. This is Gotham Heights, like high school. You have him there with a teacher, you have a teacher who's wearing a cat shirt. I'm like, okay. We have a new teacher lady, a new character involved, but we also have the principal, another female character who seems really on the idea that, oh, don't worry about them, Damian. They might give you shit, but I see that look in your eyes, and you know what? You're going to be fine. You're going to leave all this behind us and do great things one day. I'm like, you just met him for like 5 seconds. You're acting pretty weird over here, Principal Stone. And I'm like, we have two new characters, not even including Mistress Harsh, and this whole idea of like, are we just going to be picking who this Shush character is out of this? And I swear to God, it better not be anybody. I'm okay with Damian Wayne going to high school because it actually does a great dynamic for the character to actually go and do stuff and be around kids like we saw. Like, Batman talks about on the Lazarus Island with the rest of the kids. This is what he wants for Damian. I have to agree with Damian where those kids had way more involved with each other than these kids in high school. But if it turns out that our big bads of this book are just a principal or a teacher or maybe both, maybe we have Shush and the mysterious character behind the shadows who's like one of them. What are the odds of Damian going to high school for the first time ever and they just happen to be there? And also adding in a Mistress Harsh, like, oh, I'm also here. I don't know. For some reason, it got my brain turning about the idea of storytelling and how you tell like a mystery and stuff like that. And with these characters being introduced, I'm like, you better just be me being stupid and just looking too much in this because of all the comic books I've read and how many have let me down in the way that they did, characters show up and are big deals out of nowhere. It just better be nothing. That's all I'm saying.
I was going to ask you. Is this this is the weird play because when you do end up, I'm not going to hit it again. You see Shush, right? Uh-huh. And Shush is kind of wearing very similar outfit that you had Mistress Harsh wearing. But then when you get later, where I also, like you said, the principal, I'm like, ooh, that looks like it as well. And you start to worry a couple things.
But then Shush has black hair. And then, the principal has blonde hair, or is it a wig?
And
or what are we dealing with?
You get a new look. You head to a new city, Eric. You want to make a fresh start.
And Mistress Harsh has red hair.
This is my problem, though, is that are we having a point here where the art is the problem of either giving us, too much of an idea that these are that character, or is it the play of, and this is where you get the crisscross applesauce, are we playing with this crazy idea? Because I think that you agree with me. You already kind of said it. If it ends up being Mistress Harsh or the rest, you're just going to go, really? That's really heavy-handed. But is this a play? Because as I started thinking, I think it's this Mistress Harsh. Wait a minute. That's a red herring. That's a dupe. So it can't be that. But then if it is that the turnaround ooh, got ya? You thought it would be, but it was too easy to see it, so you didn't think it was, but then it was. that's not that clever in my mind. It ends up being like, oh, geez.
Well, here's another idea that just came as I was scrolling through the book and stuff like that. You have the principal who seems very interested in Damian Wayne and looks at him like, you are better than everybody else here. What if this is just Mistress Harsh after she lost her job when Damian became Robin and left the League of Assassins and all that stuff? And then the other one, the teacher, she's actually shush, but they're not related in any way whatsoever. So the thing is, when we have the big reveal, oh my God, my teacher's actually shush and she's here to kill me. Don't worry. Mistress Harsh, I'm here to protect you, Damian Wayne, the heir to the demon.
And when you get that then, and say you're 100% right, then I'm just going to sit there and say, well, why are you doing this hybrid animal shit then? With this, like, it doesn't all add up, but there is a part. The thing that really got me thinking wasn't just the art deal. It was at one point when they were talking and Shush was saying about doing things and whatnot and says, well, I really don't have anything left. I really don't have anything to do, which was my idea originally was, okay, Mistress Harsh, she was there and she, being the teacher and the son or grandson of the demon, the whole deal.
Oh, Harsh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mistress Harsh. That's huge. I mean, she is probably being lavish with gifts, like everything's good because she's there to train, the
Oh, imagine the freaking salary cut going from the League of Assassins to a public high school.
Yeah, and so in that, though, once Damian leaves, like the training does have that brick wall that you're going to run into. You're training him, and then he's going to go off to his dad. When that happens, what does happen to Mistress Harsh? She wouldn't have it. Like, she might just be out of a job.
Well, that Raish is dead. We have a lot of things have changed since Damian, was a part of this whole thing.
I mean, Leviathan, there's a lot of, there's 18 League of Shadows running around. Like, they're all assholes doing things, double XLs on one of them. So you end up having all this. So what would happen to that teacher? And yeah, you could think that woman would be mad. She'd be mad at the Al Ghul. She might be mad at Batman and maybe go to Gotham and keep an eye on him and stuff like that. But it's
even the idea she's not mad, where she's continuing her role because now, outside of being a teacher and trying to teach him to be the heir to the demon's head, she actually cares about this boy. When he left to Gotham to meet his father, she followed to keep an eye on him because this is her sacred duty.
And just think of this. In that beginning, she's saying, listen, your feelings, it's basically Darth Vader, saying, your feelings are going to betray you. You're going to do this. We're at a point where Damon was at his kind of darkest, and now, because of Lazarus Island, coming friends, things like that, and going back to Batman,
back to Papa.
He is doing things a little bit more with the feelings and stuff like that. Yeah, and so all these things may not be anything, but these are the things I thought about because really, overall, not a ton of things happen in this book. You get seen, a couple cool scenes. The art's wonky, but
it's weird too because you have this weird idea. Okay, we're kidnapping scientists and their technology to splice human DNA with animal DNA to make these animal hybrid people, like the island of Dr. Moreau. We have our gang that's all like this because we have to trademark and copyright everything we do. Everything has to be a brand. So here's Killer Croc, here's Orca, and here's the now animal-headed terrible trio. And I look at these and I'm like, all right, it's kind of weird, but I dig it, I understand. But then when you think about what happened last issue where the White Rabbit stole a Zeppelin, I'm like, she's just a woman in panties and a rabbit ears. How do you get her into the gang? Did you run out of animal villains?
She still ends up kind of playing the role there, but she doesn't want to go the extra
where's
step.
Copperhead?
I mean, I just thought of Orca and Killer Croc are like, this doesn't really do much, but we're already there. We're already there. We don't need... So you have this. Plus, I'm telling you, Killer Croc in this, he's barely recognizable with that thin... he's still good. So smooth. He's all smooth there. That usually sucks there. But when you start off, you have Batman getting attacked by those... by the bats.
Ravenous bats.
And like you said, he ends up and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to use a flashbang. That'll get them away. And Damien is so we give Joshua Williamson a lot of credit for his portrayal of Damien, especially in that Lazarus Planet, that Robin deal. And in this, though, I'm like, that's a little bit too much with the idea of flashbang. Well, that could hurt them, Father, as they're plummeting to their deaths, being chased by a bunch of bats. And luckily, Batman pulls out what I like to call it, he should call it the Scarborough Fair Bomb.
The Scarborough Fair Bomb.
Just think of the song. It makes sense, Eric. Rosemary and Thyme and things like that. Yeah. I'm like, how much room does he have on his belt? You know what I mean? Like, When did he think at this point, like, okay, I can get this, and this, but I'm going to get this anti-Bat bomb thing? It's very odd.
The thing is, Jim, I've been praising the idea of the Bat God in every other book. I say every other, pretty much just Batman, Chip Zdarsky's Batman, but him pulling out this anti-bat repellent that's just a mixture of shit his mother used to put in the manor to keep the bats up, that's some Bat God shit right there. Boy's always prepared.
It has eucalyptus, cinnamon, rosemary, and thyme. It's the Scarborough Ferret. But when Damien's impressed by this, and that's fine. The thing, though, then by the end, I was thinking, we have Shark 2 in this, but we're going to get that shark repellent. It's going to be a joke because now he's a real shark. It's going to drive me nuts. But we end up having that scene. It's just, I use this repellent.
Are you going with the idea that this is the second shark because his brother got killed in the Batgirl series, or it was the Batgirl Nightwing, or is it a new terrible trio that now has decided, hey, let's do some animal hybrid splicing and call ourselves the Terrible Trio?
It feels like it's the original, and they're stepping up there. You know what's funny too? Because when
is it that they
Gotham
were already
Academy
animal hybrids?
Remember that one, the Gotham Academy?
Yeah.
There was one too. Here's the funny play with that I think that they end up losing track with the Terrible Trio. Terrible Trio are kind of like really smart scientists that just ended up wanting to wear masks like that. They're kind of goofy now, but this ups the game. This makes them scary. But I'm going with that.
Does it really?
I'm going with that. This is the actual Terrible Trio. I think that's them. They want to up the game. Shark 2, he's ready to go. He's going to get the repellent. Next thing you got, Tiger Shark. He could show you could have them all. I'm trying to think about that. For some reason, I drew a blank with any of these animal hybrids deal. Velvet Tigers off.
Like I said before, where's Copperhead?
Yeah, Copperhead. There's a bunch of ones we could have.
We'll throw some Spider-Man villains in there.
Again, though, it's a weird group. When we have the whole play of this book, by the end, I just sit there. I'm like, what's real? Like, it's not confusing in the part where it's like a mind bender. It's more of the idea of like, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? And what's the end game for this? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But
it feels like it's being really played out for what we're doing here, because we have our villains of the story, and we have a mysterious villain who's in charge of it all. And they're doing something to some degree that's not really being presented at this point, because we're going to split the story in half, because we also have to deal with Damian Wayne being a real boy. And it's fine, because it's a Batman and Robin book, and I want to have Damian Wayne and Bruce Wayne co-inhabiting and doing more like, stuff around Gotham stuff, like stuff with Dick or like, Tim would do. I enjoy that a lot. It's just that it's kind of like you have this big new like villain, and I want to say big new villain, even though it's just a female Hush essentially with Shush. But like you're doing some interesting things within the Gotham universe that could even lead to a Batman Beyond with the animal hybrids that we have in that, but it just doesn't feel like we're getting enough, which is weird to say for just issue number 2.
I know, but I'm with you.
It just feels like we're not getting enough for each issue.
You end up here, and there's a couple things that happen. First off, Joshua Williamson at one point on Twitter was talking about how what happens to Batman. Oh, wait till you see what happens to Batman at the beginning of this Batman and Robin series. It's going to be a game changer. And so when I'm reading, I'm like, you really are going to play the idea that these bats are trying to attack Batman? Because at one point it is suggested, oh, this means you can't go out at night. I'm like, bullshit. He would have so many different suits.
He's going to have all.
He has pheromones.
I'm saying the pheromones have attached to him now. It's not even just his suit.
I'm saying you get an airtight suit.
He has to find a cure, Jim. He has to find a cure.
What he needs is to get. Remember Jim Gordon when he was the Bat Bunny Batman, and he had that like inside the suit. He wore almost like that wetsuit that he wore. Get something like that. Get out there. It doesn't stop him.
I just think of the wetsuit that Superman had in the animated series to keep him away from kryptonite.
Yeah, like that. But, have like a little sonar. Beep, beep, beep. It's doing something.
No, you're not wrong, though. The thing is,
it feels
keeping
silly.
Batman out of the game so you can focus more on Damian Wayne, even though Batman's still out there doing stuff, even though he's not supposed to be doing. But no, you're right. There should be 1,000,001 Batsuits. I don't know, maybe we lost most of them. Maybe they're in the manor and Vandal Savage just said dibs. I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't have the resources he needs to actually get those extra suits out there.
But remember, like, this is where, and again, we're going to talk about a lot of other things here, but this is kind of taking place during Gotham, where that feels weird. It doesn't really feel, and I could just push that aside. Some people can't. Some people are upset about it. But you do mention when Damian goes to school, he has some class finally. He goes to school, and they go, oh, there's Damian Wayne, Rich Wayne's son. Oh, didn't you hear? He is broke joke, Wayne. That is something that is getting me so irritated, because we have said this all along, Batman always has the right amount of money for whatever story's being told. If you need to have Damian getting shade because they're poor, you're poor. If he needs to have...
The guy's a multi-millionaire still, and he's a broke joke. I'm like, what am I? Fuck.
And still, that seemed like that could have played out in a Gotham Academy. You go with Damian going in, and it's like, oh, we heard about your daddy, not public school. I mean, he is still the richest motherfucker in that school. And he walks in, and you have the Shay guy. Actually, I'm telling you, I read this, and this kid who's the bully who's going to make fun of Damian.
Shay.
I actually thought, at first I thought, that's funny. It'd be funny if it's Eric. The more I read it, I'm like, I think it is, because he's even criticizing a comic that Damian made in here like an asshole. So I'm like, it's Eric. It's 100%. It made me giggle. But even then he's like, Damian has this. The weird play is he says, oh, what? You're making old fan fiction about yourself, weirdo. I'm like, I don't know that that's that weird, because he's like, oh, this is my super... I don't know. It's kind of funny, but this kid's a good-looking guy. I'll tell you that. So that's why I knew
think it's funny that Damian Wayne goes into public school, and first thing he does is pull out his notebook of his own personal manga series about Damian Wayne. I'm like, don't do that, man. Don't do that. You just keep that to yourself. Maybe leave that at home. You don't need to do it. Just scope out the scenery right now. And then it all works out, though, because while this guy, Mr. Shea, is making fun of him, he has this whole vision about beating the crap out of him and the rest of the students. The Principal Stone comes in, and I have to imagine it's because Damian's so cool that he's wearing shades in class that she realizes, holy shit, your future is so bright you gotta wear shades. Don't worry about these assholes. You'll do fine.
It's Damian wears sunglasses in school. They end up where the funny play is, I'm with a lot of other people, and seriously, a lot of people didn't get the idea that is of the mind, him beating up that kid. Because it doesn't play out great in the art. It ends up being that, and you see it. And the thing, when I first read it, what I thought was, man, that Shay can take a punch. Like, look at this guy. He's like not even reacting when he's talking to the teacher there, the principal there. I'm like, holy crap. But yeah, that's another part of the art that I thought was a little off, that didn't really give you a really good idea of how the scene was progressing. And with that, but he does leave the school as if he's not coming back. And I don't know how that's going to play out. I hope that this isn't just Joshua Williamson saying, well, we tried.
Look, I get it, too. I used to go into school if I had a bad first period. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, like you go in and you have your gray cords and your Brag and Dragon shirt. That first day, you're like, the girls are going to love me. They start making fun of you, and then you pee your pants.
That never happened. I didn't have those clothes.
Oh, I wasn't talking about you. So you end up at... This reminds me of, and if it keeps going like this, I will be so... Actually, I'll laugh. Remember John going to college? John Kent, like, it was so good.
Finn Connors?
Finn Connors. He came... It was funny. He pulled up in his Zoolander Jeep. Hey, boys! Like, all of a sudden, and then he left because they all knew it was him. And actually, didn't he... He didn't even drive away. He picked up the Jeep and flew away, right? So ridiculous.
I can't go to this college anymore.
Yeah, so I was saying, really, it's what they did was looked at his transcripts and realized he never got past the 6th grade.
Well, that's the thing is, I even imagine, too, because he should be the same age, but the way he came into school like that, it was almost like when Adam Sandler first showed up to high school and they all thought he was a joke because he's an old guy.
Yeah, to me in this, it's kind of like you always go, that one of the things that you will talk about a lot is like, how did Clark Kent go and get any job? He doesn't have the idea that...
No social security number?
I'm thinking that the idea here is like, what do you have? Now, Batman finagles stuff and whatever for Damian, but what is on the record for Damian, where he went to school and things like that?
Matter. That's a Batman thing.
I would have loved the idea, though, that Batman ends up setting it up that Damian's like in the slow clip. The idea that he's trying so hard to not reveal the things and whatnot, but you end up having a play too. And here's the other thing that made me like this Shay guy. He ends up like almost like a reverse Eric Shay, because he's like, oh man, his dad, he was out there nailing all the brooks. It's like he's talking about your dad now. It's so close. And he says, he's doing this. He doesn't have the money. But then Damian leaves.
I'm projecting.
He just leaves in the first place. But you do get that play with the principal and that whole play of the teacher. You know, hey, you're going to be big, and the teacher says you're going to be great things. They're going to forget about it. And that is a weird play. That feels very much like somebody who, you know, has this, not even just best interest.
When I look at Miss Hall, who's actually his first period teacher, I look at Shush, and I see that Shush has black hair that's sticking out, even like, black eyebrows, a lot like Miss Hall has here. But she's even working with all these animals, and there's something like, deeply connected to animals for that character, Shush. This teacher's wearing a cat sweater shirt, so I'm like, is it on the nose, or is it just me speculating?
But even then, it's like a cat sweater, and then when she looks out to see what's going on, there's birds, like, every time. These things is like animals everywhere. And so all of that goes, and it's like, I don't know if it's a swerve, but I think the art is throwing us off as well, because all the faces look alike if you look down the thing and some of the clothes. But Damien ends up leaving, and they're going to go check out some things. He's actually on the case here. He leaves, and Batman is out as well. And it's that whole play. You should be resting. You should be in school. Well, we wanted to come here and see what White Rabbit was
because
up.
White Rabbit, she knew what was going on with the plan. We have to get to her to question her to find out what the big bad is behind everything that's happening right now. But they're too late, Jim, because Shush and the rest of her terrible trio and band of animal assholes, I'm trying to think of a good alliteration there, and I couldn't, but they have already gotten White Rabbit, so that's where we end our issue.
I was going to say something with, like, the Feral 5. Can we add that? We could have Parker there. We could get, just get 5 people and call it that.
Well, you have 5 outside of Shush. Shush don't count. She ain't an animal.
Okay, I was going to say Shush, but you don't know. Maybe that's why she has all the bandages, right? Bandages around, like, give me a mirror. And then
that's the thing. You and I have been joking for months the idea, because once like Shush was announced, this villain, this is like the female version of Hush. I'm like, there better be something to this character that stand out that makes it worthwhile in the end. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because I asked you beforehand, what you get so far is just little grayed out of little word bubbles. Like the idea
I appreciate it that you can see through it's some good lettering, because a lot of times you don't get like lettering.
Yeah, the lettering actually helps tell the story, and that's crazy,
exactly.
Right?
Where you have, normal lettering, stuff like that, just, black print on white balloons. This one, it is slowly, like, it's faded out a little bit as
she's whispering.
I appreciate what you're doing artistically, but I don't appreciate it because I'm having trouble reading it because I don't see so well.
What's worse, this or the Batman Who Laughs, where you had the black with the red, and it was like terrible to read. The thing I get, though, that here's the character Shush, right? Oh my God, it's a female Hush. Right away, it seems lame. You roll your eyes. But when you get into this and you see, like, that's the only thing that is being done to give any sort of unique characteristic to Shush, except the bandages. Maybe you have a little bit, like, you can't rely on the word bubbles the way that you have one person at least say, I can't hear you. What the hell you say? Why do you talk so low? Because is there going to be a reason why she talks low? Did she have, like, those nodule shit on her vocal cords? She got some problems, like Axl Rose, right? That's like, what is the deal? What is the play here? Why is she shut? To me right now,
second issue, and hopefully it works out as we go along.
Yeah, I hope that would, but we're already like, you need to, especially this issue, full out Shush. You get Shush around. I need something to wow me so I can say to somebody down at the rec center, oh my God, the Shush you should see. She did this, this, and this. I mean, right now I'm like, she kind of whispers and got some bandages, and it really plays off to me in a weird way. I don't know why, but it feels like Joshua Williamson trying to do a Tynan thing, like, and it's not fully working yet. Like this, almost like
she's
a
not Miracle Molly yet,
or a Miracle Molly, or like it just feels like you made a character up.
More of a gardener.
Yeah. But again, we talked about Joshua Williamson. He seems to like to make these quote unquote hybrids. It's funny that you have this, but the idea. He likes to take known characters and change them around like this. They don't really hit. Like that. They don't really hit that crazy Respawn. Stuff like that.
You say that. I have made up so much headcanon in my mind about Respawn that I love him now.
He is what he is. So when you get this, I'm like,
Clay Wilson.
What are you doing to make this Shush more than just a kind of a wink joke? What are you doing here? And some people were saying, like, if you end up revealing that the voice from off panel is just Hush, then we really have problems. Like, really, that's what you're doing. But it seems like it would be somebody who deals with like a B'wana Beast, Eric, or maybe
B'wana Beast is dead. It's Freedom Beast.
Now, Freedom Beast. Now, I'm just saying, like something like that, maybe. But how would that be the big? Like, it has to make more sense than it just being somebody who likes animals. Like if we end up, it's that. It has to be something.
And the thing is, we say that too because we don't know that Shush is acting on her own intentions. There's a mysterious figure who's behind the shadows who this could be.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Intentions.
That's Freedom Beast there.
Shush might have nothing, like she's just being paid.
When I was saying it, I mean that shadowy figure can't just be, oh, that's, somebody who likes, it has to make sense of what they're doing and why they're doing this and how this connects in. And then Shush, I think, is just kind of there along with the plan because
you know what's weird too, because I couldn't remember because I wasn't doing the podcast when you did Batman and Robin #1, so I went back and reread that before I read this one. And in that, Man-Bat was a part of that crew. He seems kind of weirdly absent now in this whole thing.
He's mentioned in it.
He should be dead, though.
Yeah, he should be. And he's mentioned here, but he's gone. I even go with this idea of this doctor, like the idea of getting the setup of stealing the Zeppelin to get the genetics, that like it's a little wacky to start. And I think that it's fun enough, but it feels like it should be more fun. What we're getting, and at the end, you're not really getting enough to grab onto that I can say to somebody, like the elevator pitch 2 issues in of this is what's happened, and you should
I don't
read
know the plot yet.
Yeah, it's a weird play. We're here for the long haul, obviously, so we'll see how it goes. But I need something. Next issue, I really need something to at least grab onto to go forward. Not Batman is now wanted as the sexiest thing to bats in town, right? They're trying to hump his leg. I don't need that. I need something a little bit more, juicy and kind of get an idea of what these villains are up to besides just hybriding.
No, I agree, because right now it just seems like you're handicapping Batman out of a book that's called Batman and Robin, and that's what I'm personally here for. If you want to focus more on Damian Wayne, because that's where Joshua Williamson's strengths lie, since we saw in the Robin series, I'm okay with that to a degree, and I'm here for the long ride for it, the idea of what this plot could be, because it seems like it could be interesting, especially for the greater timeline of Gotham and the hybrids and stuff like that. And you get to use all of these crazy, villains you don't get to see that often. You still see them, but not that often. There's still a lot of good stuff here. The art's good overall. It's just confusing at times.
I still like this issue. I actually did like it, but it's just...
I look at this and I feel like there's something missing.
Here's another funny... I'm looking at the cover, right? We don't often look at the cover. So I'm looking at the cover, and it legitimately has, like, a thing, a bat that says, who is Shush? But that's not even that clear. Why is everything so confusing to me? And I have to sit there and squint and look at things a little odd and whatnot, but... There you go, Shush. If we get her, I need to know something more than just, it's the female Hush, because that is nothing at all. That's weird. But all in all, what would you give it?
Overall, I was going to give it a 7, but I think I talked myself down to a 6.8 out of 10 because I tell you, I still enjoy the book. It just feels like there's something missing in every aspect of the things I do enjoy. There's a little thing that's in there that makes me appreciate it a little bit less, but I would still be picking this book up no matter what because it's a Batman and Robin book, and I love what they're doing with the characters of Batman and Robin and, Bruce Wayne and Damian Wayne, father and son. All that stuff is cool. I just hope that it works out in the long run.
Yeah, me and you, we are fans of the Batman and Robin books, and I'm giving it a 7. I think I was a 7.5, and I kind of went down to the 7 myself, but I'm still positive about it. I want to know something concrete that I can grab on and say, okay, now I see, that's cool.
Oh,
Let's go with it. And we do like the idea.
It's like looking at a magic eye picture.
Exactly. And Terrible Trio is something that it's kind of our little giggly thing going. And
it's goofy. It's fun.
You do like we talked about it, and some people had mentioned that at points we had mentioned in the past that in the Marguerite Scott Batgirl book, they seem to be real animals as well. But even then, the reason why you liked that was because you said that they're usually goofy trio that you're upping the ante. I looked at the review for that, and it's like something like Batgirl 35, somewhere around there, something weird. But you ended up saying that you really like that because it makes the Terrible Trio actually terrible and scary, and that's what you could get from here as well.
More of a threat, just like I said, it ups the ante of the characters for the goofiness that came before.
And even when if you go back to Tomasi's Batman and Robin, or actually if you even go back, and it's a funny play, if you go back to the Batman and Robin book by Grant Morrison, at the beginning you were chasing down Toad. You were doing a lot of weird hybrid things like that. So it's kind of like almost like a wink to that as well. So I think that's pretty cool. Doesn't have that full flavor that Toad did, but yeah.
Grant Morrison did like his animal villains.
Yes, he did. So yeah, it's kind of maybe even a little homage a bit to the start here, but I did like it enough. 7.
You know what? That's actually a good thing to point out because I never even thought about that. But, it really does feel like a callback to that, Grant Morrison, Batman and Robin run.
Yeah, remember at the beginning, I love the idea where Toad's running and he gets hit and the dominoes are flying. It's that art. Was it Frank Quietly, I believe?
I can't remember. It sounds right, though.
I really like that book. I know that you're not a big Grant Morrison fan. My man Gray has ended up making me more of a fan. I had to get over a couple hoops and hurdles to get there, but I did like that Batman.
Well,
and Robin
that's the
book.
thing. It's like Grant Morrison used to get really goofy with a lot. I say used to. He gets really goofy a lot of times with what he wants to do with incorporating Silver Age stuff into modern continuity and trying to make it work and thinking like about things. And I want to say outside of the box, but like 7 sides outside the box. If that makes any sense to you, because I just got done 2 days ago rereading Batman, The Return of Bruce Wayne. And I told you about this. And oh, how'd you like it? I'm like, well, I'm going to reread it again. And I'll give you my answer then because, God damn it, Grant Morrison me up something bad at the end there.
I'm gonna dare you right now. You have to read The Invisibles. You'll never do it.
Not?
You will. It would drive you nuts. And also, just as an aside here, now that I'm thinking about it, remember in the Batman and Robin deal where you had that new Batmobile that was flying around and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You do have Robin's little Robin-mobile. Not the same thing, but it had some of the flavors. So that is kind of cool. It's kind of a cool deal. Yeah, that's what we do. But what are we talking about next?
Green Lantern, number 4, written by Jeremy Adams, art by Zermanico, Robbio Fajardo Jr., and Dave Sharp. And in this issue, we have Hal Jordan confront Sinestro, who seems to be stranded on Earth and looking for a way off before the United Federation of Planets gets a hold of his ass and puts him in jail for his crimes that we don't quite know yet. But something apparently bad went down on Korrigar.
Yeah, and Hal, it's weird. Hal almost feels like, oh man, they're after you? Yes, they are, Hal. Well, I hate you too for what you did. It was a weird play because we had set up that something bad went down on Korrigar. It seemed to involve Kilowog
might be dead.
More. Yes, and you got that little bit leading towards the idea that Sinestro did whatever it was, so Hal should right away be just pissed off. But he's kind of civil here.
What I'm telling you, it's civil because it has to be civil. And I actually went back and forth with whether or not I like this scene because I understood it in both ways. Where I want almost you have the frenemy of version of Sinestro and Hal Jordan, which I kind of want here, where for some reason because Sinestro is in dire straits right now, needs to get off planet. He's a wanted man, and Hal does not like him for things that we don't fully understand yet, which is my X factor, where it's a weird thing. For the reason that Sinestro is willing to blow up Central City and has bombs already placed and then walks off and it already sets off so he can escape. I don't know. I'm telling you, it's weird because I wanted Hal Jordan just to let him go. Because Sinestro goes to Hal Jordan because he wants his ring so he can have a way to get out of there. Because with all the United Federation of Planets stuff making Earth and I guess Sector 281 for itself, it's all quarantine. So getting anywhere with boom tubes and teleports, whatever you have, it's a real problem right now for this sector of the universe. He needs Hal's ring in order to do this, but he can't use Hal's ring because Hal made his ring and only Hal could use this special ring. And it's just, all right, I guess I can't get off this planet using your help, but I was going to threaten you to blow up your city if you didn't help me. But you know what? Now that you tried to help me and it didn't work, I'm going to blow up your city so I can walk away slowly.
And that's the weird thing is Sinestro says this and then says, I'm going to have to make a distraction. Like Hal... He makes it seem like Hal, after Hal says, oh, yeah, try to use my ring. I don't think you can. Oh, man, I can't. You think that he just let Sinestro... at this point, he's not part of the Corps.
Again, though, that's the X factor, though, because I want to think from what I understand with Sinestro, even though they have that terrible past with things that went down, as, the entire Green Lantern legacy, whatever happened on Korrigar with Kilowog, something like that, it must have been something so over the top that Sinestro can't even just back away and walk away and just go on his own because he has to do this now because Hal Jordan will kick the shit out of him, kill him. I don't know. And I'm like, I need to know more. You've got to stop playing coy with me with the background of what we're missing in this Hal Jordan Green Lantern series because there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. I know we're only at issue number 4, but it's just this lingering thing that makes me feel like I never know what's going on in this book, and it bothers me.
I like it. I do like this issue. I like the scene enough, but like you said, I think that Jeremy Adams, as he's writing the scene, it seems like he's kind of caught between something here. He wants Sinestro on Hal to talk. So in my mind, by the end, it feels like at the beginning, Hal should have just cold cocked him out of how dare you, and just punch him, but he doesn't. Then he talks to him. Then at one point, he gives him the ring. This whole, pure will deal that he got from the Manhunter tech that went to shoot him from Majors, all that stuff all rolled up into one. I don't know that he could really be positive that Sinestro wouldn't be able to use it, but he kind of plays that game. But at that point, Hal seems kind of down in the dumps. It doesn't feel like he's that angry. He does say, I'm never going to forgive you again, but he's not fighting him yet to then at the end make it so that Sinestro seems to know that if he doesn't blow up things, that Hal's going to. But where is Hal going to take him in?
Even in the and he won't. There's nowhere for him to take him in because there's no Green Lantern Corps anymore. It's all United Federation of Planets who are after both of them because Hal shouldn't even be having a ring at this point. But even in the conversations, like, hey, give me a ring. They're like, all right, the only thing you have of worth, Jordan, your ring. Yours run out of power? Something like that. No dice. I give you this ring, you'll destroy more than the city. Sinestro slams his hand down on the counter. I don't want to destroy your city. And then, like, you see the idea, like, I really don't want to be doing any of this. This is not who I am right now. And it's just such a weird dynamic, which I like because I understand, but I don't know enough what's going on with either of the characters at this point in time to really get a handle on it, and I want to know more.
And the weird play, too, and first off, I do have to mention this menu at this place.
It's terrible. How is a tomato and cheese sandwich more than a hamburger?
A burger. That doesn't make sense.
It bothered me so much.
I'm sitting there, I'm just going to order a cheeseburger
all day
with the burger on the side, and I'm getting double. I'm like so mad. I'm sitting there. Anytime something like this comes up, I look and I'm like, how is a burger less than a tomato and cheese
what
sandwich?
Is going on with tomatoes on the West Coast that a freaking cheese and tomato sandwich is more than a cheeseburger?
But again, you would think that you could put a tomato on the burger. Like, I want a burger with the works, and then you're really...
The thing is, this is just a burger. This doesn't look like a great place to go and eat. So a burger, I think, is just a burger on a bun. You don't even get cheese with that price.
That. You don't even get a pickle? That's bullshit,
no.
Eric. I was so mad at that. But so you have this scene.
Stupid stuff.
I'm so mad. And so when you have all this going, though, in my mind, like, this isn't just, like, Sinestro isn't going to tell Hal what's going on. You know, he doesn't, the whole play. But it does feel like it's not just Sinestro saying, I hate the stank on the hang low of this planet. I can't stand it here. I got to get away. He seems like he is very desperate to get somewhere to do something, whether it involves what happened in Corrigar. And it looks like Hal, like, really almost says, I saw you with my own eyes do it. Sinestro doesn't deny anything. So that weird play here is, you know, what is going on? We also don't know exactly what's going on with the, you know, United Planets. We don't know what the Green Lantern Corps really is up to, how we don't even know who's really involved in it still. And there's a weird play when we get at the end of here, while it's just a side book, that Superboy deal has a really odd editor's note that almost makes you feel like all the lanterns that we know and love might not be there. Kyle,
I got the same
Guy,
idea.
Yeah, because why would you have to show them when you see them as great? They say the United Planets, all of that, but it says this takes place before this. I think they're all purged. So with that, Hal...
Oh, God.
I think that they got him in a cell, just like Public Enemy. You end up where, the play too I like, where Hal, this ring isn't going to set off any alarms, I don't think, because it isn't quite a ring.
Exactly.
And I think that this scene also is Jeremy Adams trying to let people really know that, say, because he's like, this isn't a lantern ring. So when Sinestro says, oh, they're going to come for you, they're not. Hal's just there. He has this. Not like what happened in the Jon Stewart deal, the Word Journal, because that's still pinging off the deal. This is kind of its own thing. But what are we getting at, and how are we going to play this out? And I do want to mention, too, at one point when we talked about the first issue, and we said about Hal trying to get out, you know, he's going to go into space, and the ring ran out of charge. That might have also been something of a safeguard that the United Planets have. And somebody did point that out. I wish I could remember who. Makes sense that maybe they do have something, so he can't leave. But you have Sinestro, and I do like, you know, the tie-ins. Jeremy Adams says, go get your Legion of Doom assholes. You can boom to all, and it seems at this point that you can't even do that. Like, that seems too big to go with. The idea of boom tubes and things like that can't work. But Sinestro's desperate, and then he ends up to set up the issue. He ends up setting the bombs off.
It's such a disappointing because I just want an issue for some reason for what we got here with Hal Jordan and Sinestro sitting at a diner talking things out so we get an understanding of what we're dealing with in this new Green Lantern series, because Sinestro, or whatever situation he's in right now, feels that he needs to set off these multiple bombs that he has from this alien tech so he can walk away. Well, Hal Jordan calls him Barry Allen the Flash to help him find these bombs and take it out. And you have different constructs and like flat. You got Brave and the Bold stuff going on. And it's always going to be a fan favorite when you have this stuff. But it really just, here's your action portion of the book. And I'm like, I really want more story. Look, I'm happy with Barry and Hal, like, you know, coming back together, doing Brave and the Bold stuff, because Barry Allen and like Hal Jordan are great characters, especially together. And it's fun seeing it. But you're just depriving me of story, it feels like, and it's pissing me off. And not even that, Because you even have the people, the alien people that Sinestro threatened in order to get the tech that he has right now. Even when he went and like did stuff with like a Ferris aircraft in the previous issue. When you have this going on, what are their roles on top of everything else that's going on? Because it seems like they were just doing their shit covertly, not doing anything. And all of a sudden we have major disaster with new alien tech creating whirlwinds in Los Angeles. I'm like,
yeah, he's stepping it up now.
Is this a part of that? Like, are they doing their own thing? Is this a Sinestro thing just being a ruse so he can take off a Ferris aircraft? So, like, I don't know enough about the book right now. And right now it's almost like a sleight of hand. Like, okay, everybody, like even the idea, it seems like a sleight of hand, which Sinestro is doing in order to get off planet with that major disaster, those aliens and the alien tech, and even the bombs here. But is it Jeremy Adams doing this sleight of hand where we're not getting the full story, but we're just getting this like, hey, the brave and the bold stuff, huh? Cool, huh?
Here's the crazy play here, because Sinestro does end up, he's like, hey, is that a pointy construct under the table? You happen to see me there, big boy. And he's like, oh, I love that it's this huge sword. Like, please, be a little more subtle, Hal. But when he does pull out that trigger, he says, Zoldemon transmitter, I have friends that traffic these sort of things. And that ends up kind of being something that you ended up having major disaster already doing in the first issue. And then there's that alien tech deal. I actually thought at one point that what we were getting in this book was, unfortunately, we had the quarantine, almost like you get the idea of the Berlin Wall going up. Sinestro and Hal end up being on Earth together. They know that the United Planets is sus. Let's go in. I thought that's all we were getting. I thought we were going to get a team up. And even that idea of Sinestro, hey, give me your ring, kind of played off in the New 52 when you ended up Hal getting Sinestro's ring. So I thought there's some weird things this week of, that seems like a little wink-wink callback. Even when you get Barry and Hal together after they get the bomb and they're sitting there, it feels like when they came back with their rebirth stuff of trying to catch up with things. Hey, what's going on? Oh, man, I was out of it. I can't keep up. It had that feel as well. But overall, the story, like you said, there are some big things. What happened on Korugar? Did Kilowog, what's up with that?
United Federation of Planets, the rest of the Green Lantern Corps.
We haven't seen the Green Lantern Corps itself. What is the Corps actually doing? Who is involved?
Guardians are just gone.
What's playing? Yeah, the Guardians are gone. And a lot of that stuff is the carryover from the Jeffrey Thorne stuff. But even so, I want to see, like, if Hal, because Hal quit. Hal said, screw you, went back to Earth because he didn't like what he saw, So is Guy still in the Corps, and why didn't he quit? Is Kyle Rayner still going? Why wouldn't he quit? Why isn't this a thing? Who and what and why? I want to see all that. I know that we're dealing mainly with just Hal Jordan, but like you said, you throw in, and it feels like this brave and the bold kind of back and forth. Hey, we're going to do this, Barry and Hal. It feels like this should have been an issue right after we're told some big shit. Like, you have this big shit. Now let's have a little cool down. I don't know that we need a cool down, and unfortunately, even with that 2-month break.
And it's the worst part, too. That 2-month break just kills me. Because
it makes it feel like you should have more info by now. Like, you even have to say, you're like, we're only on issue. It feels like you should be on issue 6 or 7.
Well, we have a backup to this book. We're doing different things. This time, it's like a Son of, Sinestro type story by Peter J. Tomasi. But I really wish for everything we're doing with it, everything I already talked
Tales
about,
plus the
relationship. No, this is on top of everything I talked about, the relationship of where we are with Carol and Hal and stuff like that, where how creepy is Hal going to be trying to win her back. You have all these aspects to the story, and it only feels like we get like a little bit here and there every issue, and not enough to really satisfy you. And I just wish we could get rid of those backups and extend this issue to be an oversized issue so we get more story per issue.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I thought you were just going to say some goofy backup, a different deal.
No.
I think you're right. I think that at this point, especially again,
I tell you, I like the stuff we got. The idea of Sinestro, it's cool because I love Sinestro and Hal together. I just want to get more out of it and not have to take a break for the Brave and the Bold action. But that being said, I like the Brave and the Bold action because it's fun. I like Hal and Barry being able to sit down and have relationship talks about where Barry is with Iris right now, where Hal is with Carol right now, and how they know each other. They can bounce things off oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this right. That's really good stuff. Even the interaction between Barry and Carol and everything they've been through, that's such good stuff. I just have to stand back oh, I'm Barry Allen. Oh, I'm engaged to Iris. I'm like, bitch, you were married before you died. What's going on? I always have to think about what's going on. But it's crazy, yeah. But they're engaged. I'm telling you, these are old friends getting together, and I can have a good time with it, but it never feels like enough.
And when Barry and maybe it's not just on you. But I think here's the difference, where we get some books, like, again, Jeremy Adams writing this, we get Cy Spurrier on that Flash, we get that first issue. I know it's one issue, but at the end of that, I'm like, I don't know what happened, and I really want something like...
That's not your fault.
This actually, in this, I think I'm getting more of the idea of, I'm really enjoying the little things you're doing here. Let's get bigger. It's not the idea that I'm mad because I hate everything here and it's being neglected. It's that I do like everything here. Exactly. But I want more of the overall story. But I need to know more
because there's so much in the dark right now about what's going on in the series. And like it always, like I said, the sleight of hand to the point where like we're focusing on one thing. Like we have so much bigger things to deal with right now, don't we?
We do, but I think that Jeremy Adams also, maybe there's some timing deal with everything else. It's weird. But the idea of the core, like, and so when you do this, I will give him props too, because most people think of him as the Wally guy, even though Barry was in the Flash book at points, especially near the end where we have this stuff with Iris, but he does a good job with Barry. I mean, he does Barry. He's using the little forensic stuff. They're having some fun. And I'm telling you, once Carol shows up and you get that weird, awkward, like, oh man, we'll invite you guys, because these best of friends.
Yeah, about that.
And these best of friends haven't been able to hang out a lot. I mean, that's the hero life, Eric, as they say, #hero life.
That. Hal Jordan's been off planet for years now.
Exactly.
And this whole thing about him talking to Barry, which is great. Like, look, why don't you win her back? I'm like, I'm trying, but also, should I? Because if I really do love her, I should care about her happiness. I might be freaking sent back off to space. So like when some crisis happens, is it really fair to her? I'm like, they're having some really good, like, character moment talks.
And I like it because it did seem like Hal was a bit of a creeper going in. But when Barry's suggestion, I feel like that's rectified great.
Here.
Well, Barry says, because it shows he doesn't know how to deal with this. And then Barry says, just be the friend that you always were. And if she's going to fall in love with you again, that's how she's going to do it. Don't force it. Just see if it works. And Hal's like, hey, really good. I love, though, when you end up where, hey, we'll have you and Carol over. And like Carol's like, yeah, I'm kind of engaged. I think it's Hal says she's engaged. Suddenly, Barry it's almost like the, stovetop stuffing and I help. He actually goes, so am I. He's like, so right. And I'm like, ixnay on the air. He's like, oh my goodness. But you have that play where
when do you think we'll actually get the wedding between Iris and Barry? What book do you think that'll be? Do you think it will be a special? Do you think it will ever happen?
It's weird because you would think that you'd want to have a actual Flash Barry Allen.
A Barry Allen book, yeah.
And we don't have that yet, but we'll see. It'd be nice, right? Be pretty cool. Yeah. You've been wanting it since it didn't happen when it was already there and nonsense. So when you get this, though, they're all dumb. I just want to end the deal that they're all morons because they end up realizing Sinestro broke his way in here. I wanted them to go through the footage and like, look at these bunch of assholes that he ended up getting. I mean, that was a crew that was very odd to be hanging out with Sinestro when they ended up breaking into this place. And they were all like out fighting. Sinestro snuck in and they realized, Barry says, something ended up being altered here. Something was put on or in this jet. You can tell it's like a little bit of a mark here. I'm going to send Mr. Terrific over here and he'll do some diagnostics. Immediately get any bit of fuel out of that shitting thing. You can't have this thing flight ready when you know there's something, because in my mind, right away, you're going to think that Sinestro's going to do something remotely anyway, because that kind of seems this deal. Hal was in the, diner, bar, whatever that was, restaurant. And you did have the mention, Sinestro saying, I'm kind of hanging out and grabbing a bunch of this alien tech that they're saying. Get everything out of it. Ground these jets. You can't, because she even says, I can't have anything happening here. We have a test. And at the end, they just take off. I'm like, you should have done something, some more preparation here if you think that Sinestro possibly could have done something here. But the rest of the stuff I thought was pretty cool. And that advice that Barry gives and that talk's really, really nice. Them just sitting there talking like really good. Buddies. Yeah.
But when you have the brave and the bold action, like I said, you have Hal and Barry going after the bombs that Sinestro placed, and they're going to be set off these sonic bombs, which I'm like, just explode, please. But no, there's the sonic bombs. They have to build up, the sonic thing to destroy everything. So we have some time. Not a lot. Barry's doing super speed stuff. I have a problem with that because Hal is having such problems dealing with his constructs with the speed that Barry's holding on to them. And like, you are the greatest Green Lantern that ever lived. You fashioned this out of your pure will. Nobody else has ever done that before. you should have a handle on this. Now, when we later have our second Brave and the Bold action against Major Disaster, that's fun, but it's really quick and simple and easy.
Yeah. And so they do that. And here's the thing, too. When we say you get that Brave and the Bold deal and you have these fights that seem to be there just for the action quotient, maybe a little fun factor, whatnot. Remember, in the Flash book, Jeremy Adams, Wally West Flash, you had a bunch of issues like that. You ended up having the issue with Irie and them going out, and you had the wrestling. So he is always a guy who's going to have some fun. And maybe when we do go along and we do get info, because me and you at points, I have to admit, if people have been listening, at the beginning with the glaive and stuff like that, we were not really down with Jeremy Adams' story. But as it progressed and more things were revealed and more story built up, we actually realized this is really good. This is a really, really good book. He kind of likes to take his time getting there at points, it seems. And I think that that's what we're seeing again. But I think that most people who were turned off by the creepy Hal who seemed to regress and not, go, I think that has been kind of pushed aside a bit. I think that this is a Hal that can get behind. Here. Yeah, it seems like this is a Hal that's like, all right, Hal's back. He's going. He needed to get his groove back, and it took his buddy Barry to come and remind him, hey, you got friends. We'll have some fun. We'll do some things. So I think that's what you end up from here, and it might serve a good purpose going forward. We just want to know there's some big. It's not like we said, hey, in the Batman and Robin, we need to know what this. Yeah, of course we do, but this is big shit. Like the stuff that we want to know in this is stuff that affects the whole Universe DCU. Altered. Yeah, it really affects everything. So we want to know that, and it's kind of weird that people are pussyfooting around that. But we do have a backup by Peter J. Tomasi, as you said.
With art by David LaFuente, Tamara Bonvillain, and Rob Lee.
And this seems to set up that Sinister Sons book and the idea that this kid, I'm not convinced
son of Sinestro.
Yeah, I'm not convinced he's actually blood son of Sinestro. I think
do not take that away from him, because you're going to take away the Joker's daughter too. Then,
well, you have that, but again, I think that the play is he is like in an orphanage. He's kind of
he's Cornigarian. He believes that Sinestro is his father, and he was dumped here by his mother. And it's a pseudo orphanage where the thing is, it feels more like, hey, I'm a street kid, and this guy took me in, and he'll let me stay here at the rest of the orphans as long as we steal shit for him.
Yeah, that's what it is. But you want to think that you're better than that. You sit there and think of grand things as an orphan. Oh my, every orphan's like, I'm the Queen of England, like that sort of thing. Or
I'm
even
the
when
Queen
you have,
of England.
Yeah, like me, I'm there and I don't like my mom and dad. I'm like, oh, I must have been left here. And I'm the Queen of England, Eric. Oh my God, I am Nefertiti.
Weird ideas.
All right, so I'm prancing around.
But I get you the idea that you want, like, you're expecting more, like, the reason that my father never came back from me, because he's this great, important guy. He's Sinestro, the leader of Corrigar, like the greatest Green Lantern that ever lived, the greatest Sinestro Corps member that ever lived. He has a corps that's named after him. And you know what? I have to do my father proud for when he gets back. So I'm going to create a technological yellow brass knuckle thing.
Brass knuckles. Fear knuckles. He's got. Yeah. And, okay. And then he's like, well, I want to look like him. And he gets this little marker out of.
Love it. Gave himself a little Sinestro mustache.
It's pretty cool. You say that you could go into a barber and say, I want the Sinestro. They'd be able to work that out. But the idea, like, again,
I want the John Walters.
And he is, it looks like at a point he is trying to, like, go and find Sinestro so he can get a blood sample. Don't know why he has to write Sinestro on that. Is he getting other samples? And in a way, it almost feels like, not fully, but like Crush. Crush ended up wanting to get away from the legacy of Lobo because of what that meant. You end up having this kid. About 5'8". Okay.
Oh.
5'8". I don't know. She's hanging with her girlfriend, probably. I'd like to see her again. We actually, she's probably doing something that has space before it, right?
Space lizards?
Space playground she's at, or maybe at the space amusement park. She's hanging with those stupid lizards. But
I do hope that even though things didn't work out completely with her and her father Lobo at the end of the Crush and Lobo series, that with Lobo being attacked by Graf and freaking I never remember the other. What the hell is the other guy in the Superman series? There's Graf and there's
I actually forgot about Graf and Farm attacking him. Yeah,
exactly. Lobo's held this. It'd be cool if Crush could show up in the Superman to save her father, maybe, or just show up to do something.
That would be cool. Like hang out, then go, high five with the Connor and stuff. I don't know. You end up like this. The kid ends up stealing some money because he needs to keep going. But at the end, everybody is pretty much taunting him, and he's like, "Oh, you'll see when I figure out." And the funny play, though, it looks like this whole thing is just for him to go around to try to get, proof that he is Sinestro's son by getting some blood somehow. It's an odd play. It sets up that other book, Tomasi, doing that, kind of cool. People probably really just want Super Sons again, but you have an interesting play.
And that's all it really does feel like. Almost the idea of what we had with the Super Sons story with the alien versions of kid, like, Rex Luthor and stuff along those lines.
Yeah, that whole deal.
But I think it's cool where you have this kid. What's his name? Karg? Is that what it was? Okay, I'm telling you, Karg, the son of Sinestro. It could be a lot of fun. It could be cool. It could just be like a yellow version of the Teen Lantern.
That I thought of Teen Lantern. I thought of, like you said, those evil versions, because I thought we did have an evil kind of Sinestro in that Rex
possibly
with their thing, and it was weird. But in this, when he does put the Sinestro mustache with it's cute. It's cute as hell. It really is. And these are the type of things that I always end up liking. It's just at this point, I think that you really convinced me while we were talking. I wish that this would just be on the Sinister Sons book. I understand what you're trying to do, set things up, and I give them props because a lot of times I do tell people, hey, you can't just throw things at people. You have to set it up. So here we go a little bit, but we do need more information in the Green Lantern book, which I am really enjoying. It's one of my favorite Dawn of DC books. So what would you give it?
Ultimately, I think the art's great in that issue, and I like everything that we're dealing with. I just want more, and more taste, less filler, but I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
I'm an 8 out of 10. I actually liked it a little more, and I'm even going to put a little bit of an up for the cuteness factor of the backups. We usually don't tie that in, but I did like, it's a weird play. Like you said, everything that you get in the Green Lantern book, it's good, but you want bigger stuff, and that kind of does pull it back. But I'll give it its props for having a couple good conversations. I really like this. Barry, you set up more with Major Disaster for some reason and see what's going on with the core. We got to find out what's up with the core, but we're going to go off now. That is me and you doing the first section of books. Eric, I just want to point out to people, here's Eric Shea, the glimmer of hope. What I like to say is the purveyor of hopes and dreams. He comes in here, and I like both books more. I think I'm trying to fight back at people. Everybody's saying I was miserable without you. I think I just missed you, but I still like these books. So
it's fine. You're miserable with me, too.
That is true. We'll get miserable later on, I'm sure. And when we get more books that I have then the playground opens of misery. So we'll do that. But I'm going to go off right now and join a certain Luke Hollywood, and we'll be talking about the manga that Eric will never, ever read. And then we'll also have me and Simon talking the Batman City of Madness. And then at the end, we'll be back, me and Eric, to talk the final book. All right, and here we are. And some people ended up saying to me, oh my God, with Eric back, no more Luke Hollywood with the manga. And I said, what? Eric isn't going to stop, Luke. What's going to stop him is actually showing up.
Ain't got nothing on Ireland's
nightmare. Right?
Absolutely.
You got a new haircut this week, though.
Oh.
Which one did you get cut? Oh, my goodness gracious. You should fire that barber and get some new clothes. I don't know what the jokes would be, but here we are with this, and we end up having Joker Baby.
Joker 1 Operation Joker.
Joker 1 Operation Joker we've been enjoying, obviously, but we keep saying that we like the Superman versus Meshi, or as some people call it, Superman versus Meatball, a little more. And I think I said right before we started recording that I think that gap is widening a bit, because while I continue to have a lot of fun with the Superman versus Meshi, and I don't know that I could ever get bored with the concept, because it's just so crazy. Even if they ended up with Superman's like, I'm going to go back and have everything I already had again, I think I'd still laugh at it. The 1 Operation Joker here with the Bat Baby, I still like it. I still think it's funny.
There's only so many times you can do the baby.
Yeah, and I think that what we need to get now is we do need to progress the story a bit, but what do? Do you have, and we talked about it, is there going to be the idea, and I think it will be eventually, the idea, Bruce ended up becoming a baby because of these chemicals and things. Either the Joker's going to figure out something to, speed up the process, or it's just going to be a side effect where, okay, he's not going to be a baby for as long. It's going to be very quick as he grows, because I kind of need to see him, doing a little more. It's fun seeing the Joker lose his mind, but you have in this chapter where how many things can go wrong for the Joker before he does really lose it. That's the fun of it. But I do have a problem that I'll mention to you in this. You never can find the title. So I'm going to say the title is Chapter 8, City of Devils.
Uh-oh.
And it looks like we start a new volume here. So we'll see how long it goes, right?
New problems.
Well, actually, you say that. The funny play is one of the same problems, though, is the buying of diapers, but he's good at that. And the big play here is that he goes online. I think the Joker should stay off of social media.
He needs to touch that Gotham grass, Jim.
Yeah, exactly. Well, instead, he goes to the cloud there, look. And what he ends up finding is that some mother has gone, this idea that this is called viral. This mother, yeah, it is. It's Mika Mama here. She goes and puts a post, hey, I was on the train, and this old man started yelling at me. Oh, my goodness. He said, why are you bringing a stroller on the train during rush hour? And I said, hey, I know about that, pal, but I had no other choice. You know, hashtag single mothers. So you end up where all that's going on. It has 200,000 likes, right?
Oh, my goodness.
So the Joker, then, he's kind of worried. He's upset at this. He doesn't know what's going on, but he does respond with, ha, 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 what a riot. However, if you ask me, the biggest joke is the women for expecting anything better in Gotham. Whoa. So you could take that some weird ways. But yeah, really. So he basically says, Gotham's a crap hole. What would you expect? So that's
We're
the whole...
its diaper.
And that's what it is. Yeah, really, we are. The whole play of this is that the Joker, he thinks Gotham sucks. But remember, the whole play is raising a bat baby who thinks that Gotham's the bee's knees. I mean, that's what, Batman do. And also you have the play where I like that Joker, without the Joker around, because he has been, laying low, raising bat baby. There's still problems like getting yelled at by putting a stroller on the train. In the meantime, Joker has to go and use the train. They got to go downtown. He ends up where he's got to get things together. He's going to go to Baby Village. It is funny. Do you like the way that instead of full out, like, we're going to translate everything, they just kind of have, like, they Photoshop where it's a little sus, right?
If you zoom in, you will see that Cherry Pie Man, he's going to be there too.
I know.
Oh,
Cherry Pie Man is. Now, I have to tell you that, and you read a lot on your phone. You do have to zoom in.
I'm reading on my phone right now.
That's the thing. You have to zoom in. Even on my tablet at points, I couldn't read everything. So it was a little bit annoying. But he also ends up getting a diapers half off. Oh, my goodness. He's going to save all the money. And so he wants to go in and get the stuff with the idea also that soon Bat Baby is going to go to preschool. He's going to send him off to that daycare deal.
Problems.
So he goes downtown, he's doing all this, he's going through the crowds, right? And he's got Bat Baby, he's dressed up as little Batman. Okay, that's
cute.
He's the Joker. This is my biggest problem in this. He's not pretending to be anything but. And nobody comes up.
His Twitter account is just, I'm Joker.
I am Joker, right? Verified.
So that's the biggest joke of all.
Yeah, so when he goes in, I wanted one person to come up to him and say, oh, I get it. Your baby likes Batman, so you are playing along and going as the Joker, and then him confused. But there are points in this issue where I would think that you would legitimately think this is the Joker with a baby, and there are people throwing shade at him, and they're about to die. And it's
we see he's walking down to the subway, and he's strapped. He's going fully equipped. Oh my goodness!
And I like that he says it looks like I'm wearing
diapers on stale, or else there's going to be troubles.
Seriously, there might be for me if we don't get this done quick. I ate some beef stew with a lot of garlic in it. That doesn't go well with me. So, and also I'd be afraid of the Joker, right? That's what I'll tell Tanya. I'm like, I need a cleanup in aisle me is what I'm going to yell to her. So you end up where he is at first. I don't know if anybody else thought this. I thought it was like, ooh, that's not a good. I thought he had a suicide bomb on him. Like, because of the way it's all there. I'm like, oh no, again, because I'm reading it on my tablet, and then I look, I'm like, he has grenades, he has guns, he has knives. So he's like, it looks like, but it all seems to be so that if somebody says something bad about him on the train, because he just thinks Gotham is a cesspool.
Like, comment, and subscribe to this sucker. Oh my!
And again,
goodness.
you get that kind of humor in the idea where the Joker is so off his game because he's raising Bat Baby that now he's even he's kind of running around scared, or he thinks there's going to be trouble. Usually he would start the trouble.
Shout at him. No way.
Again, though, he's just there as full-out Joker. I really was waiting for, like, some of his henchmen, or maybe the Penguins there, something weird, which might have been funny, but he gets on the train. He's worried. That lady and that thing, it was all over the news. This idea of the lady with the stroller getting yelled.
Must have been a slow news day.
Yeah, really. You know what? Without the Joker around, maybe it was. So
maybe it was.
He sees this guy giving him the stink eye. And I mean, this guy is like full out. Now, I don't know what this other thing next to him is. It looks, I'm telling you, I'm looking at it now. It looks like an alien. But you end up, this guy's just staring him down.
Dog eyes.
And now the Joker's worried. Oh, my God. I think that this guy's going to yell. And let me go check, the lady and see what her deal. Because he really wants to. It's like me. You got to check if people are fighting back. Right? Because he kind of made fun of the lady. He ends up going. Now, in that, the way that it's displayed, the way that it kind of goes, if you want to go in the real world, say Twitter, it does look like the lady might have thrown shade back at the Joker, then deleted it, but it seems like they're saying maybe it was a quote tweet is what he did, but the post, she got rid of it.
Deleted. Only a coward deletes
what
their
a
post.
Coward. Like, and it was even big news. It made Yahoo news.
It made the Yahoo front page.
Yeah, I love the Yahoo front page. Like you said, it's a slow day, and it's a slow day in the world for news. It's like, hey, get this, everybody. Opinions go back and forth with Stroller Mom.
Right? You think about it, right? Like, in this manga DC world, we got Superman out on lunch breaks in Japan and talking to dead fish with Aquaman. Batman's a baby, and Joker's, busy being Joker Daddy. There's perhaps no crime in the whole world, so they just have this to report.
This is what they report, and in the meantime, it's Joker online troll who's he's trying to stir things up, and then he's mad. Oh man, that's ridiculous. Deleted the post. Wait a minute, these comments, and you have the comments like, to be honest, it's a pain when people park their baby stroller near the train door. I think 90% of people would agree it's a nuisance. Frankly, it's a lack of common sense, all about having a baby on the train while the Joker has a baby on the train. So now he starts getting worried.
Where does he get off?
That guy was looking at me. And so he's so off, he actually gets off one stop early and says, oh my God, I got off without thinking. I got to go. Now he's going to get upset because there's no elevators in Gotham. They're all upstairs. It's an old city look. And so he has a stroller. He can't get it up the stairs. He's having a problem. And that is a problem. I remember because I have so many kids. I think last count 17. I think. I mean, when the Duggars, I heard about them. I told them to hold my, baby bottle or whatever it would be. So you end up where he's trying, because I remember at one point we had a double stroller. I couldn't get that thing anywhere. It was the worst. He can't get up the stairs. He's trying desperately to get up the stairs. And that guy who is giving him the evil eye, he comes from behind. Glasses. And he realizes it. He says, oh my God, that's that. Now, what, when and how and why did this guy get off? And where does he get off, Luke? Because he didn't seem to get off at the stop. He must have doubled back.
He saw a daddy in need was a daddy indeed.
Yeah. And so he really thought ahead. He's really down with this. He's like, hey, and Joker's about to kill him. Joker actually opens his knife. He's got a switchblade and turns around with the knife. The guy doesn't react to the switchblade. The guy doesn't react to, it's the Joker. Now, even if it isn't, why is this guy running around dressed with the makeup of the Joker? It's nonsense. So the guy says, hey, pal, I'm going to help you. Let's lift. And really just goes right to it. Says, okay, both of us get aside and we lift real slow. I know that the idea that he was thinking ahead of this is a little creepy, but he says, there's all stairs. I'm a dad too. I know how hard it is to take a stroll up the stairs. Let's lift it. And you end up where Joker's like, this guy isn't the devil. They end up carrying that baby up, and then you end up having the Joker actually almost like the Fonz. He almost isn't able to say thank you, but he says thank you. Now, a little tip for everybody. If this happens to you and you're not the Joker, and you don't have sus stalker following you, what you do with the one, you just hold the baby in one arm, and then you pull the stroller up with the other hand.
Life
I mean, if a baby's not in the other stroller, plus that's the way you'd go anyway, backwards up.
I don't think he wants to be holding that baby anywhere near the chest when he's got
that's
grenades ready to go off.
I'm just telling everybody, if they're out there, there's ways to do this that you can get away, because the real play is you don't want to upset the baby by bouncing them up and down the stairs. You hold the baby, pull the stroller. It's just it, right? So he ends up saying thank you, and he says, oh my God, I love you. He's like, that guy's not a devil. He might be an angel. This guy just walks away, too. He's just like, my deeds are done. Again, without much news going on, People are bored. People are helping people with baby strollers. So then he goes, he buys all these diapers, because I like that he's just got the diapers there lined up at the diner. He goes to get some food. And boy, if you just heard from the side, like, what's that yellow tail? That would be hilarious, right? It is the same writer that we became aware of, that Weapon of Superman was there eating some stuff. A little bit of a break from Japan, but
this ain't no Japanese cuisine.
No, he's talking Bat Baby, and hey, you drink a lot of milk, and this is causing a lot of problems with money, but hey, I'm going to eat now. I love the idea that he's like, I can have an Angus steak, or I can have tacos. Either way, 2 days from now, big trouble. Bat Baby gets upset because he's sleeping in the booth, and you see another guy. A guy who looks a little too much like Luke Hollywood. This drunkard. And he has the bat light, by the way. A little
too relatable for my liking.
It is funny, too, because didn't you think right away he was going to, have something nice to say? Like, that would be the whole chapter. Like, hey, buddy, you think that baby's... And then have some advice to help. Give him some of this liquor. Like, something like that. That'd be pretty funny. Tanya, my wife, was telling me that, and a lot of people will say this if you're a little older, that when you were teething, they would rub whiskey on your gums. I think that might have been your problem. Maybe. The problem is, I think that Tanya said she ended up hurting her wrist playing soccer, and her dad gave her 3 shots of whiskey. She was 9. That's not good. Her dad was worse than the Joker. Why not? So he ends up in Joker now. He's off his game still. He's like, this guy's like, where do you get off? Shut that baby up, you jerk. Again, you can't be sure this isn't the real Joker, but people I guess they're getting a little bold here.
What happens in the Gotham Diner stays in the Gotham
Joker
Diner.
waves at him. Hey, sorry about that, buddy. I didn't mean that. We didn't mean that. The guy won't stop. And Joker even goes as far, I'll buy you a drink. And then the guy's like, really? And he's like, yeah. I got a few slugs here, and he pulls out his automatic freaking Uzi.
Whoa.
The thing, though, is this other guy jumped. What are they thinking about this Uzi? The whole point of this is funny,
comments about, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah, I mean, at the one point, this guy, and it ends up being a homeless guy, steps in, and he's like, hey, don't you yell about the baby.
I know you got the problems, buddy, but I'm homeless.
Yeah, and says to the drunk, you were a baby once too, and you know what they say, don't scold children and don't laugh at the elderly. Oh, man. And then he turns and goes, and you there, I thought he was going to say, don't shoot people. Don't bring an Uzi to a, drunk yelling fight. It was so, Joker puts it back in, and he's like, hey, don't listen to that guy. And then I thought he was going to buy him a meal. He just says, if you want tacos, Angus steak, whatever, go for it and take your time eating. Again, another creep. How does he know those were the 2 things that he was thinking about? This guy was listening in. I don't get it. But he's like, hey, and I'm homeless, so whatever. But it's like the idea that if I'm walking down the street and a homeless guy actually comes to me and gives me some clothes. He's like, hey, buddy, you look like you need these more than me. Like, oh, God, that's what Eric says. But so you have this, and he's like, you're struggling more than me. And then the Joker has to say thank you for the second time and realizes, holy moly, what pretty cool town we got. He ends up getting online then with this big, giant proclamation. Hey, everybody. I think this Gotham is pretty darn neat.
Ain't so bad after all. Even that crazy mama who deleted her post.
Yeah,
oh my
she deleted the post, but she's still in my heart. But then you have, at the end, for no reason whatsoever, you have to do the Jack Nicholson deal. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? As a joke, it kind of was a little cringy.
Tweeted with the devil.
And then he's like, I haven't either. So you just go with it. But
goodness.
It's okay. It's not the best chapter, and I'm worried. We need to get a banger. We need to get back on track. We need to have something that we didn't think of or really have over-the-top fun. Maybe having his, crony come back. Maybe it's getting Bruce into the daycare. So we'll see how it is. What would you give this one?
Yeah, not the best chapter we've ever had. But if you think about it, this is the start of Volume 2. We weren't crazy about the start of Volume 1 either. That was just setting things up. But maybe it takes a little bit to get the ball rolling in these volumes, and then we start cooking later on. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. We need to kind of move things along. I don't know if that means time skip. I don't know if that means reeling into baby years, Jim. We'll just have to see maybe getting somebody at Penguin Daycare. I don't know how it's going to. But yeah, we need kind of something maybe to fresh up the idea. With Superman and the meshies, I think the food itself and the goofy reactions, that's enough to keep it fresh. But with Joker, while we do like the characters and everything, the concept I don't think is going to last as long if we don't freshen it up.
Yeah, you need to just I could sit there, and we have talked about it before, but I can sit there and where Joker has to go to a play date, or somebody's bullying, baby Bruce at the deal. Joker has to deal with that, or, all that sort of thing. Or if he does run into the Riddler or the Penguin or something, that could be fun. There's a lot of fun to be had. It's just at this point where you have that concept of, get this, Joker has to raise the Bat Baby. He's having problems. We're now 8 chapters of that. You kind of have to mix it up a bit. And this one it's always better when somebody else is involved. Either Harley, the cronies, things like that. I think that throws things off. But yeah, we'll have to see. But what would be your score?
I'm going to hit it with a solid 7.2.
I'm a 7.5. I'm a 7.5. And just to think, 7 is your bottom of the barrel. So it better start getting a little more interesting. But it's
going to be bottom of the bottle if that guy is still drinking.
Oh. Isn't it already? You already said that. What did you tell me your message when we were going to do this? Because I said I might have to use the facilities myself. But you said we got to get this done because you were drinking. And then what were you eating? Did you say?
I was eating the ramen.
You had ramen and having some drinks. So yeah, we gotta get going. But
probably.
Yeah, I look forward to the Superman versus Meshy though. I can't wait for that to come out because it's so goofy and fun. This one's starting to be the thing of, I enjoy it, but we'll get to it eventually. It's not as big. So I hope that it kicks off this volume kicks into gear coming up with the next chapter. But we'll see in a couple of weeks. But with that, thanks for joining me, Luke. If anybody wants to hear us talk about other manga stuff, some, what do we do? Demon Slayer. And we do the Spy Family. Me and Stork end up doing the My Hero Academia. And Chainsaw Man, me and Jason end up doing the Death Note. And then now me and Double A-Ron joining me, who do the Dragon Ball. So we have all those. Check the show notes here. You can go to our link tree and it'll have all of our manga links that you can go and listen to all of that. So with all of that, though, we're going to continue on with the regular DC books. All right, and here I am with my man Simon. What up, Simon?
What up, Jim?
What up? And you are joining me, and I said that once Eric was coming back, we're still going to do some of the side books that Eric ends up saying that he doesn't want to, and boy, this one was one of those.
Crappy things that Eric hates.
Yeah, and he hates Black Label stuff, and for a while there, that was where the good books were. It was the place to be, it seemed, the Black Label. I don't know anymore. But
no, I think the standards have dropped quite significantly from the first batch that they put out.
I would agree. I think that it's now maybe the experimental place. They, down in the lab, right? For
but you
writers.
You can feel like they're really trying to fish out another Dark Knights or Watchmen, something that's going to stand the test of time and be sold 10, 15 years from now.
Or I don't know if you'll agree. Maybe they're trying to fish out a new Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth, because that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me a bit of the art, but it's not as good. I'm not saying,
It does it in the most superficial ways. It name drops a couple of characters, and obviously you've got the painted thing, and they keep saying they're going for a cosmic horror thing, but they don't
Like, at least in this issue, like, Christian Ward doesn't understand what cosmic horror is. Like, putting a squid face on... Putting a squid face on someone isn't Lovecraftian. That's just a squid face.
Not at all. But you can tell he's trying to go for that. But it is, like you said, I do believe you kind of put it right there. The idea that this is trying to do something. It may eventually do it.
It may do it. We got 2 more.
In this one, it felt kind of, I don't know, it felt like as a writer, Christian Ward is a really good artist. This is the best way I can say it. But it's also like he has ideas, but they just don't seem to develop quick enough or properly as you go through.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it's the problem right now is that it's not developing quick enough.
Yeah, that's the problem. I ended up where it was a slow read for me, and I will admit, too, me and you weren't the biggest fans of Gargoyle of Gotham, Raphael Grandpa. God forbid. People were very angry at us, right? So I've seen people going, it feels like because they're both Batman, they're both Black Label, that people are already choosing sides, right?
They've come out within a very short window of each other, and there's already comparisons being drawn and people trying to pick the better one, despite the fact that both of them only have 1 issue out.
Exactly, and I would actually say it might have been a better play to wait a little and maybe once that
maybe wait until they finished and then take a good long look at it and say, well, actually this one delivered and this one didn't. But
now, or DC itself, if they ended up, having these tiered release, you could have people who love the Raphael Grandpa one, and then the Chris, because these are also a little more pricey, they're bigger. I don't know. Maybe it could have been the play out, but they do have it where, because of the scheduling of the Black Label, it kind of comes out, 1 month and the other than one. So that's at least okay.
There's like 2 months between each issue in these things, isn't there?
Yep. It's the bi-monthly, not the bi-monthly.
Not the bi-monthly, yes.
I hate when people
bi-monthly,
it's
not bi-monthly.
Bi-weekly. I'm like, really? Like twice a week? Oh, no, it's every other week. I'm like, I don't get these things. It always confuses me. I'm like, whatever. I don't really care. But this is Batman City of Madness, Book 1, written and drawn by Christian Ward, letters by Hassan Atsame El Wow. And you do end up having the editor not listed, so I won't even say it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'd have to look into it. I don't see it, right? I'm not trying to, diss. Yeah. I just don't see it. It's probably in the back. A lot of times what they do on these, they'll have like a last second sheet. I'm looking now. It is what it is. Matthew Levine, editor. So I got it, right? Not Adam Levine,
not
the
Adam
singer.
Levine. No.
Levine, exactly. I'll go whatever. But in this, when I went in, I'll tell you, the idea of, oh man, I'm going to choose sides. I wasn't quite that way. What I did, and I don't know if you had the same kind of idea, I actually was hoping that I liked this a lot because people seem to like that Raphael Grandpa Gargoyle of Gotham so much that I was hoping maybe this would be the one that, all right, this will be my deal. I'll like this one. It's okay.
I'll be a little bit honest with you. I was like, when you messaged me and said, hey, do you want to review this book this week? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. What's it about? And you sent me the blurb.
I sent you the blurb because that blurb was so wacky and long and boring.
It talks about so much stuff that isn't necessarily in this book either.
No. The big play of this, if you didn't know, is that you're going to have like an under Gotham. You're going to have another Gotham underneath Gotham. This is something that they
Except
had
we
movies.
don't see that here.
No, we don't get it yet. And the weird play is this is something also that they had, if you are a Tom Taylor fan, or even if you're not, over at Marvel in his Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, he tried to do an Under York story that completely and utterly failed. It was so bad.
Yeah, and I likened it to the mutant New York City underneath New York in Futurama.
Exactly. That's what it was like. And that had elevate. So now in that run, people will say, but Jim, they had Spider Bite. Okay, you got that. But the Under York stuff stunk.
Spider who?
Spider Bite was the kid with cancer. It was pretty much for a redo of the kid who collects Spider-Man, the classic story. But it was done well. It had some emotions in it. But you end up here where you're being told there is this under New York. So I'm like, or under Gotham. I thought, okay, that could be kind of cool.
Or a Gotham
especially,
Below or something.
Gotham Below, whatever, the upside down nonsense, crisscross applesauce, whatever it would be. And okay, if you're going to do something, especially a cosmic horror, things like that, I don't need you to really go into space. I don't need, that nonsense. It would be cool to have a kind of a supernatural thing. In Gotham, you can set that up. And I don't know what he's waiting for. Because in this, you end up setting up pretty much this kid, because that's how it starts. A kid is heading to Gotham.
Yep.
Every scene, and, I don't know. Maybe people would disagree, but some of these scenes, even one that lasts one page, seems to last a little too long. Like it's a panel
Just a
too
bit
long.
Too long.
You know what I mean? Because I get the idea. This kid's going into Gotham. Hey, one-way ticket. You see his gun. Hey, kid shouldn't go into Gotham. I'm like, all right, but what is this? Why? Like, set it up a little more to get to it.
I'll give Christian Ward some credit here because, like, this little arc for the kid does pay off within this issue. And it all ties together at the end. Like,
seems to be what'll lead us to the under Gotham.
In terms of like his structure for this issue, it's fairly solid. We've got essentially like 3 plot lines that are running parallel for most of the issue, and then they sort of tie up together towards the end. There's nothing massive that's left hanging for the next issue. Like we had serious issues with like Raphael Grandpa's
Serious Houses as well.
Yeah. In the just like there's stuff dropped in that never pays off within that same issue. Whereas at least here, this kid's little arc where he, you find out that he's going to Gotham because one of the crooked cops in Gotham murdered his dad for no reason.
And lied.
And got away with it. So he's going there for revenge.
You're right. That is actually an interesting play. And what's funny about it is a lot of the other things, including Batman himself, that's where I think wasn't that interesting. That's where I think that this wasn't, because a lot of the stuff ends up being the same old. Yeah, it looks different. It has some cool looks in this, but
there's a lot of influences being pulled from a lot of places, and there's a lot of like twee little references and jokes that just like there's one on this page about like the kid's scared because he's seen a bat and he hasn't seen one before. It's like, oh well, you see a lot of them in Gotham. And it's like it just doesn't like
you didn't need that.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit. I don't think it necessarily fits the tone of the book, that what it's trying to aim to do. It takes you out of it a little bit. And like the Two-Face stuff coming up, people say visually it's really cool and interesting, but to me it just reminds me of Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face in the Batman Forever movie.
Yeah, said that.
The Joel Schumacher like Tommy Lee Jones lair, where it's just clean down the middle with like good stuff on one side and like evil on the other. It's such a like cartoonish, like bombastic representation of Two-Face.
I also think like the Dave McKean stuff in the Arkham Asylum, you're doing a lot of things in this where you'll have a picture and then you'll do like a coloring part that's a little askew, so it looks kind of wacky, and you have things like that. And I just, it ended up looking cool, but it didn't look like anything like I thought. I kept thinking of other things, and even the stuff with Two-Face, I thought also it did play out a little like the Ram V stuff recently, and that's recent stuff. You don't want to kind of feel like that. And overall, some of the things, I mean, you go to that spread page, and there are a lot of spread pages. You go to that next one, and just the idea of the perspective with the bats and Batman, it looks really neat. I mean, it really looks cool, but what is it doing? I mean, it instead of it, or except me saying, oh my God, that looks cool, but it's not really doing, you end up having a narration on the black part of Batman to then go off to Alfred, who he's there. Woe is me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Alfred's a big old sad sack in this issue, isn't he?
Yeah, Thomas and Martha's like, I let you down. I end up, worried about Batman. He actually plays off like the wife of a cop or a firefighter, where he stays up at night. He doesn't want to go to bed before Batman comes back, before Bruce comes back. You get a play of even the pearls kind of mixed in with the I will become the Bat, that whole play in that. And it's weird, too, because there are some times where I thought, okay, like some of the panel layouts are kind of neat, but then there's like a lot of times it's just kind of really basic. And I like the narration for, say, Alfred, the way that it looks, because he says, I've been writing a journal, and you have it in like a paper deal, and he throws it in. But then it almost feels like at one point it just gets very like, hey, I don't have time for that. I'm just going to throw this black panel on there as a narration. It just, I don't know. Some of the plays didn't go as good as some of the others. And at points, I do think that he was more concerned of, I want to make it look neat, but the story itself is just kind of meandering. It's just hanging there.
Yeah, and I don't know yet what the point of this sad sack Alfred stuff is.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, Alfred comes off as incredibly depressing in this issue. Even Babs pops around and is like, "Are you okay, Alfred? Like, are you all right? Do we need to call someone?"
Like, he's there. Like, the guy is brushing his teeth at like 2 a.m. I don't know about that. Like, once a week if you need to or not, right? That's what I'm saying. Alfred's British. What is he doing? Like, he should know better than that. No, I'm just joking. But you end up where it's just Alfred, like, walking around being depressed. And I'm like, okay.
There's a slight, like, implication towards the end that whatever's happening might be tied to Alfred's mental state in some way.
Maybe.
But it's one of the few things that doesn't tie together nicely. So all you're left with is this sense of, like, God, like, Alfred, who is usually the rock and stone at the center of the family, the guy that everyone can depend on, is fucking miserable.
He is miserable. I get the idea, too, that what they're playing with, Christian Ward's playing with the idea of, Batman. He even says Batman's fallen to the abyss. We get that a lot. He's in the darkness. Oh, my God,
yes.
Bruce.
Not a particularly new idea to play with, is it?
Yeah, and we're going to have an actual abyss underneath. And I'm like, okay, kind of weird. But you end up where you go from there, and then you get to Two-Face. Two-Face is hanging out. He ended up kidnapping one of these famous twins. But again, this setup is, in my mind, just to have Batman come down and start beating heads in, just so that he could get Harvey, and we get that play that Harvey here is going to be, like, really, okay, I'm the good Harvey. The bad Harvey went away. Here, I'll talk to you. Hey, I'm the bad Harvey. Get out of here. And, you really go.
Batman lampshades the whole ridiculousness of it, how easy it is that he's in such an obvious hideout and he's done such an obvious crime. And Harvey then explains it that, I wanted to just phone you up. I wanted to just, like, pop round and have a cup of tea. But bad Harvey wouldn't let me. So we had to do some ridiculous crime.
We have to do some crazy, two-pronged crime here to get you. But in that he kind of wants help, and the help that he gives him. And again, as we go forward, it feels like you have Christian Wars. Now he's going to end up giving you that Arkham, it's not a place of healing. It's this, and you kind of twist and turn. But I think there's a lot of ideas that get kind of pushed aside.
This weird jump as well from, like, we leave Harvey and Batman after Batman's, like, stormed the lair with Harvey saying, "I need help," and then, like, 4 pages later we're just in Arkham and it turns out that Batman's just slung him in a cell somewhere. And it's like, that's not very Batman. Like, that's not very, like, especially, like, Batman to Harvey. Like, it could be Batman to a lot of his villains, but, like, Harvey, he's always gone out of his way to, like, reach a hand of friendship out.
What I think that is weird in here that might be a little askew as well is the idea that, Batman, a lot of times he will send them to Arkham, but in his mind, I hope in his heart as well, he thinks they can get help. They always break out, whatever. And usually when they don't, it usually is, oh my God, Harley Quinn got involved, or oh my God, this one, person ended up screwing things up. But when he does go and start talking to the people at Arkham, it pretty much is like, if I'm running Arkham and you come in as Batman and like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, this place is a shithole. Like, they don't even try to pretend there's anything. Like, I can't do shit here. Like, this is fun. And the idea that you have any Batman book and you say things like we're underfunded, or that doesn't work, because Batman would certainly be funding that, because
Bruce would just chuck money at Arkham.
He would chuck money at it. And even if it ended up not being used properly, he'd at least want to make sure they don't escape, but he would definitely chuck money at it. That's what he does. And I think that he does at points care more about his rogues than maybe, homeless people in Gotham. He would probably set this up, but again, that would be a play of he wants them to actually get better. I think that Christian Ward is going with that trope that Batman doesn't carry Sting, a blind eye. Throw them in Arkham, throw away the key. I don't know, but it's weird.
Is it just that Christian Ward's desperately trying to make this feel some way connected to Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum?
That's what it feels like.
Because that version of Arkham Asylum was so run down and so gritty and disgusting and horrible and haunted. And, like, this one doesn't feel as bad as that. But
no, it doesn't. But you see that you're trying to
he
get
wants to
that,
try
right?
and justify it. Yeah, he's
He even mentioned the hauntings, and it's weird.
He's brought back the old staff from that mini. You know, the staff even then say this isn't a hospital, it's a haunted house, which is again one of those twee on the nose things that I
saw
don't
the art, and
like
I kept saying like, okay, this is definitely Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum. But then when they said those things, when it was described, I'm like, it 100% is. Now, it's fine to grab a hold of different things, especially some of the better things. But that's just like kind of in its own, like, it's a weird play.
Yeah,
it's just there, right? And you're like, why is it there? And what are you doing with this? What is it setting up? And it feels like in this first issue, again, this may end up changing around. At this point, it just feels like random ideas from an artist who might want to draw something cool that he always wanted to do, but it doesn't have that
Arkham Asylum graphic novel was a huge influence for him when he was growing up, so he just wants to
that's what it feels like.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. And then when you're going to go get a story, then grab the Court of the Owls, because that's pretty big. So that has a different feel kind of than the deal, and that gets a little wonky. I know, at least I think he's trying to play the idea that you think that's Bruce at first, because you're there. It looks like even a Wayne Tower, and you end up having this guy, and he wants to know, hey, everybody, what are the big things here in this meeting? It's a big board meeting. You going? I don't know. This guy doesn't read the room very well. When he's like, he's kind of told to shut up like 3 times, and he's like, shut up with your thing, and he just keeps going, and it's just weird. It feels like a setup just to get to the evilness.
This is pure exposition for why the creature that we end up coming across underneath is now out. We got a little bit of it way back on like panel 1 when we overheard like a news story saying that there's a big sinkhole opened up in Gotham, and now we've got a tedious boardroom scene here where the local, I don't even know what this guy's job is, but he's just here going, it's climate change. The underground river's diverted, and now it's just eroding everything that's underneath Gotham.
It's weird because you end up where this Mr. Reeves, he doesn't seem to be part of the board of directors. He's not dressed in the suit. He's there, but he's like in a weird way that he's like meandering about. It's odd. The whole scene to me was odd, and it is just basically, hey, why are we having problems? We're having problems because there's global warming. No, what's that? And
what's the outcome of this sinkhole opening up? What's the damage? What do we need to do? Well, this is the cause of it. Blah, 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 blah. Exposition dump. Wander into an elevator with me so I can stab you for some reason.
Why would you go in the it never feels right when you.
Why invite him in? It just doesn't make sense. Why would you go in there, and why would you bring him in there? Like, you've just murdered a guy for no reason. Was he an employee? Was he a consultant? Was he, like, a representative of some sort of local Gotham Greenpeace initiative? Like,
it's weird. And the idea, I think he's supposed to be an employee, but the way they have it, he's, like, separated. But the whole play is, it ended up having trouble for the subterranean river princess. River princess? It's such a weird way to say it. And, like, the subterranean flow that goes beneath Gotham, we have this thing. And then you just, like you said, you end up having this guy say, we don't talk about that. So what do you think of this? No, I think we will talk about that. That's our responsibility. Okay, follow me. I'm like, you're done. You are dead. And they get in this elevator. You start going down. You get to negative floors. And then you end up having this guy come out of the elevator with a Court of the Owl mask.
We get some stupid owl puns, and then we, move on.
Yeah, and ends up, you get some puns, and then says, in that evil way, because it was already set up at the beginning. Remember the idea, and it continues on that this kid, his dad was killed, and they set it up to look like a drug dealer type thing he knew his dad wasn't. And so in this, you end up having this guy, Strigaday.
What Christian Ward's done is he's named all of the Court of Owl characters after Latin names for owls, which is, again, another one of these twee little ideas, which I hate.
We have this in, Josh Trillo did it in the Blue Beetle book. Not as fancy a book, but did that in it. It seems like it's a cool idea, I think, in their mind. when you actually have to read it and say it out loud, it's so, it's not great.
I'm being so smart and clever. I'm gonna give them all owl-themed names, but I'm not gonna make it obvious. I'm not gonna have like Mr. Barn Owl and Mr. Snowy.
That would be pretty cool. I'd remember Mr. Barn Owl better than these because a lot of these names, they're not real memorable. So he ends up, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, what am I doing? So he says, hey, Pip, go and get this guy, have him have an overdose, and then, and he does it in an evil way.
Clean up
it's
the
a
mess.
sad thing that he's going to have an overdose in 10 minutes, then send the flowers to his wife, and off he goes. So then he walks down, and then he runs into his buddy, Brother Titanide.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Brother Barn Owl.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's just snow owl, but I don't even know that many owls. Seriously. So he ends up, hey, what's going on? And this whole play of, well, we want to do it this way. We're protecting this lair, but we don't really think that
there's now some
a
weird
demon.
internal schism in the Court of Owls where they had this prison or something of some sort of creature or power hidden away underneath Gotham for 200 plus years. And one faction of the Court of Owls thinks either it doesn't exist or it does exist and they want to release it anyway. And I'm not entirely sure which it is because they seem to flip-flop.
Points I thought that they themselves flip-flop. I'm like, okay, who's there with the knife? They're going to... It's a weird play here because the Court of the Owls, obviously it's been around for a while. Scott Snyder comes out. We've had Court of the Owls in wacky ways. We ended up in the Ben Percy... and near at the end of his run of
The
Green Arrow, we
Owls.
ended up having but at that point, it was pretty much, Fight Club, and they gathered up homeless people and then went through a maze, and they had really been watered down. Recently, just the last couple of weeks, we even had them in the Hawkgirl book, and so they kind of come, but when you get into this, maybe if you're doing a deep dive into the owls, it might be a cool idea. But again, I think that what Christian Ward is doing, he has these ideas in his head that should just stay in his head that kind of set up the scene going. But when I'm there and they're talking about, the house here and the house there and where are the owls, it's not that interesting. It's not that interesting in the book itself to know, oh my God, they're having fights within the Court of the Owls. While this is going on, I'm thinking, where are their talons? Where? And then the guy just pops out and he's there. Okay, I'm the Talon goes. And it gets a little hard to follow some of the action and why and how things go because we end up having almost like a Doom's doorway. It looks like down there where you think that this whole, Cthulhu monster is being kept and held. But then the one guy says it's not really a thing. And they say it is. Talon runs through this guy. And then they're just like, hey, let's go. And then they're going to blow. It's so wacky. I mean, the Talon then, he puts a charge on the wall, but then Batman comes out of nowhere, cuts his arm off, and then it's in his hand, which didn't make much sense there. But there's weird play like, what is happening here? Why are we doing this? And what does this all mean?
For some reason, the Batman below has batarangs. But yeah, it's the Talon makes an attempt to try and seal off whatever it was that was buried under there again. And
gets his arm cut off too.
Yeah.
Like he's armless. And then this other Batman, which you don't know just yet, but it's easy to, he gets away. He gets out. But again, are we going to get more Court of the Owls from this? Or is this just a setup to be like, oh man, they done messed up and here we go and whatnot? Because I keep wondering, when are we getting down below? Because then we go back to Sad Sack. Well, we get the kid.
The kid's trying to find the cop that murdered his dad, and then he gets, the cop sees that he's being snooped on, so he asks a couple of his lackeys to go beat him up.
This kid's just walking around, and then they're like, okay, well, go get that kid. Then you have Batman. And it's a cool page when you have Batman, he's like driving up to the mansion. It's like a river of blood. There's a lot of the visuals are really, really cool and really could I would actually like this art here. I prefer it in the Flash book than what we were getting in that. I think that it kind of would fit that a little bit.
It's weird. You said earlier that a lot of this book is really visually interesting, but then some pages are just bland
some pages are
beyond
weird.
belief. They're just like a regular comic book. And then you've got pages like this introduction to Arkham, and then the pages that follow it, which are aping the Arkham Asylum miniseries quite heavily.
And I like that.
But then you turn the page and it's Babs and Alfred talking as if it was just an issue of any other book that came out this week.
I like when he's driving up and it even has like what looks like the profile of possibly Alfred there. It's like something's wrong with Alfred. But again, you end up when he goes into Arkham, it's straight up. I mean, it almost looks like it's lifted from the Arkham Asylum with Sirius House with Sirius Erskine. And you end up, having random things. But that's where like, hey, what's going on? I can't do shit here. I'm like, what are you doing here then? Like this whole play, it looks like there's one doctor there. They're doing the whole thing, smoking it up, and just like, I can't do shit about shit. And that's all it really comes down to of, are you really helping? But is that what we're focusing on? Because the big play in Arkham is that Batman goes to talk to Two-Face, and it seems like he has another...
Yes, there might be a third side to Harvey at the minute, or there's another entity that's made its way into Harvey's head.
The big play. It's Two-Face, but now there's another. Will that make him credit? But I don't know even that we're going to get into that too much, as you have Barbara asking, Alfred, are you okay? You seem very depressed. And he's like, keep on keeping on there. He's trying to like play it up, but you can tell he is depressed. And then you just go to Arkham with this play of there isn't somebody, the bad deal, that. But at the end, we find out that the third thing seems to be a combination of the two. But instead of it being horizontal, it's vertical. I'm like, okay. And then we get the terrible trio.
It's 90-degree Two-Face. Yeah.
And that's where you end up having that cop send his 3 guys, and it ends up being the terrible trio. I will tell you, I love the one part of the art where you end up seeing the guy's face inside the shark mask.
Yes,
that's
so
really
good.
cool, right? I mean, a lot of these things, and even when this kid is freaking out, but again, I'm telling you, when you see that panel of the terrible trio there and you have the ha, that seems like it's also from Arkham Asylum by Grant Morrison. It's really played out that way. But this kid is like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to take you down. Okay. And they're like, whoa, buddy. I'm trying to stop him. But he says, I am vengeance. And he is going to end up, looks like he's going to kill him. You think that Batman has come down to pretty much take out the terrible trio there, but it is actually this Cthulhu. I mean, it's a straight up Cthulhu version of Batman.
They've glued a squid to Batman's face.
And is like over the top killing people. So again, this idea of the underworld deal, I don't know. I kind of think that it could have been a cool thing of this Cthulhu Batman running wild, people thinking Batman's killing. And you could play the idea. Is it better or worse? And how's it? But it just kind of happened. And while that's all going on, like you said, Batman was worried about Harvey. And then at the end, you have this crazy play where they're bringing this talent. Like, there's things that I don't know that we need to see. They're bringing this talent back, and they know that the Cthulhu Batman's out. The only one they can end up counting on is Batman himself.
Yeah.
But will Batman join the Court of the Owls? Oh, my, we're his enemies, but he'll have to. And there's a lot of ideas. Maybe you tighten it up.
I don't know how many of them are good. Yeah.
There's too many going around.
You don't necessarily need the Court of Owls to do this story about something living under Gotham. Like, it seems superfluous.
Yeah, especially when it's a kid. Like, the big play is this kid coming into town. He wants to be vengeance for his father who died, which would be something that would trigger Batman as well. And then he ends up getting taken by this Cthulhu who does seem to want to protect him. It's like this weird play that it just doesn't know any better. And so it's going to take them, but they're looking at it as a kidnapping possibly, but also they have the Court of the Owls. The only play that you have good in it.
The line we're left on is that, this Cthulhu Batman is going to turn that kid into his Robin.
His Robin. But this kid did come into town with a few days to kill. I mean, he wants to be this murderer. What I do think is interesting is the idea of the Court of the Owls done messed up. They then have to go to Batman, but why would Batman help him? Yeah, he wants to. He's probably going to have to stop this thing, but why help the Court of the Owls? And the Court of the Owls maybe, trying to finagle a way of oh, we didn't really do anything bad, but we see they did. I think it would have been a better play of a mystery of how this happened. Maybe, have the Court of the Owls come in a little later to kind of, explain things that it's all thrown at you in this first issue, but yet we don't really get anywhere. We get the kid kidnapped. We get Batman doing pretty much a walking tour.
We don't get any of the cosmic horror Lovecraftian stuff that we were promised.
Except for the look of that Batman, which looks cool.
But again, like, sticking a squid face on something isn't Lovecraftian horror. It's just sticking a squid face on it.
Kind of looks like, now that I think of it, it kind of looks like the Dark Multiverse.
So much of this feels like it should be a Barbatos dark metal story.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that kind of thing, but we already have.
And we don't get any of the, like, warped, twisted versions of Batman's Rogue Gallery that we're promised in the blurb either. The best we get is this, like, ghostly 90-degree Two-Face.
If you end up where you get it and you just, want to see some different art. I'm not even going to say great art. Some of it's really good, and I like it.
Really good.
I'm not a real art guy, but I will tell you that it is a different look. You end up, I don't think that this would work very well with a lot of books out there, but as cosmic horror, you can see that it would work. It's just not gotten there yet in the story. And I think that it's the pacing of the story and the tightening up. Maybe the idea of having an oversized black labels, like that's why you add things in to kind of fill out that 40-some pages of each issue. Yeah, you need to get the extra pages.
But again, we're sat here complaining that the core concept isn't being communicated or has evolved enough. So, like, if you've got the extra page count, get to that point. Like, really nail this first issue to leave people going, God, yeah, that was amazing, I want more.
Again, we didn't love Gargoyle of Gotham. We didn't love it. No. But in that, and there was a lot of ideas in that, but at least at one point in that, we're like, oh man, Batman did a cool thing there. Yeah, he got hit by an anvil, right? Kind of cool. But they, even with that, there was some cool stuff. But in this, I end up at the end where it feels like somebody randomly showed me a couple pages of cool art from 7 different books, and the story. There's no, like, the overall story isn't really that much of a Batman story, really yet.
The entire summary of this book is the image of Batman with a squid face. That's it.
It's the underworld, underneath Batman. That's the big play of, oh my God, he's squid-faced Batman. But even then, I'm like, am I that interested in that? Do I want to know what Squid Batman, what makes him tick? What does he love in life?
What does he love?
What is the thing? Why is he so down
Did Squid
on himself?
Batman's squid parents get shot seeing Squid Zorro? I don't know. Yeah. Why has Squid Batman decided to take up a life of costumed crime fighting? Like, where's this all come from?
Like, did he get upset at, like, the crabs and the shrimp?
Yeah.
And then
is there a Squid Alfred?
There might be. Well, that's where I also... Alfred is so depressed and you have that supernatural kind of feel like, is this Squid Batman in the underworld of Gotham? Is this affecting, the mood and maybe the explanation, like the idea Gotham's on a hellmouth? That makes sense to me because it's a shithole and so are we going to deal with that? But we only have a couple more issues and maybe that could be kind of interesting. Almost hey, they moved the headstones, but they didn't move the body. Like, what is that play here? Especially with that river, are we playing things like that? Are we going to get involved in all sorts of wacky, like you said, almost like a metal type feel as well? I don't know. It just seems a lot of concepts out there. Nothing really ties together well, but it's
vibing on a lot of stuff that people already know, and the only unique thing it's bringing to the table is Squid-Face Batman. And if, like, once you've seen that image, you've seen all this book really has to offer.
I will tell you one thing. When you get to the page where I guess it's the Talon coming too. Sexy dude too.
With his long golden hair.
Yeah.
And
he looks almost like he could be an Azrael. Like you could play that.
Very much like
Ghostmaker even, I thought, or Thor. Yeah. But he's coming too. And you see that page, again, it's kind of feels a little cliche. But you have the page where there's the background with the words. And then in the foreground, the words again, but clear. That's exactly the thing that I've been trying for so long. That's how they should do backwards magic. You have the backwards shit in the back and it's kind of faded. And then in the front, I get to read it and not be upset.
You get to read it normally.
That's what I wanted all along. That's what it is. Yeah. So, but in that, it kind of is a cool play of, he's out of it. He's in concussion protocol. Maybe before that, you see Squid Batman.
It's everybody's favorite RoboCop scene as he's waking up, as he's drifting in and out of consciousness.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that. And I do like where they say they need Batman because they don't have a lot of time
because
and they're trying to heal.
Shit. That's why they need Batman. Yeah.
but it might take too long. We're doing it quick. I'm like, he just needs a hand.
What about all their other talents? Don't they have like dozens of them?
They have an army of them. There's tons. I mean, just don't get cold.
Also, it was kind of implied earlier in this issue that each house in the Court of Owls has their own talent.
Yeah, so, that's what it seemed.
Why do they need, like, this one guy? Like, where's the other talents?
I don't know. That guy's pretty sexy, though. Look at that guy. I mean, I don't understand the way that lower body type deal. He doesn't skip leg day, but that codpiece he has, I mean, it looks like weird. It, like, doesn't even look like it's a real, like, junk there. It looks weird.
After the Batwang incident, they're very careful about how you draw crotches in these Batback playable looks now.
Thinks he's like Robert Plant. He's stuffing socks down there in a zucchini, but he's gone overboard. Now it looks like he's wearing a diaper. That's what it looks like. Right?
He-Man trunks, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Like he's, I don't know, he might have crapped his pants too. I probably would have too if I got my hand cut off. But with all of that, what would you give this?
I don't know, like a 6-8. Like, there's stuff here that's good, but there's just not enough.
That's my problem. It feels very incomplete. And so trying to give a score, and a lot of times you'll have even creators, oh, I hate when they give scores for a number one. It is true, but that's what we do here. So I think I'm about, I can't go full, I don't know. I like Squid Batman. I want to know about the Squid Batman, right? Like, next thing you know, you just throw like a net down there, and he gets caught up in the tuna net and shit like that.
Just distract him with like canned tuna constantly,
Just do that, like, right? Is he going to squirt ink and shit at people? I don't know.
Is that kid now going to get a squid face?
Maybe. I don't think he'd look very good with the squid. The kid seems very, like, not scared of squid faces. But the funniest thing, too, is probably, like, this kid is from out of town. Weird. He's from Smallville, they say. So he comes here, and I get the idea that maybe he doesn't know Batman. He just thinks this is Batman. He's like, man, Batman's a lot different than what I thought. I didn't think he looked like this.
They really tone him down for the cartoons.
Batman's there, like, sucking on the kid's head. And it's very odd. Looks like a face hugger. It's all over the place. But I think I'll go 6'9". Dude, I'll go 69. I'm going to go 6'9", just to be a little more positive.
Just to be a little bit more positive.
Just a little bit.
Just a tiny bit.
I do want to like this. I think that, like, I like certain aspects more than, again, I'm going to just keep comparing it to the Gargoyle of Gotham.
Yeah.
But that too could end up turning around for us. A lot of people liked it. But yeah, I think that most people will end up saying, and there's a lot of 10 out of 10s. This is not a 10 out of 10. Whether or not you love it or whatnot, this isn't a perfect comic. There's a lot of problems with it, but those problems could disappear if you tighten up the next issue and really have a clear purpose of what this book is to give me the idea of the story. Because right now you got Squid Batman, you got Two-Face that's three-faced now, you got Talons without hands, you end up having Alfred, he's ending up, and in that there's not that much going on here to get that many things involved. No. And then you got the inner turmoil of the Owls. I mean, seriously.
The only thing that's happened is Squid Batman's released. And, like, how you go about doing that doesn't need this amount of craft.
Yeah, that's what I think that it's like, I don't know. Doesn't seem like there was a full story there, but maybe it will be next issue. So, yeah, hopefully. But we'll be back doing that. And I debated on whether, but we'll probably continue the Raphael Grandpa manual as well. We'll continue going through. Hopefully both will, get better.
Now that Eric's back, we can carry on doing the shitty Black Label book.
Yeah, the stuff that he'll never touch. Yeah. He won't read that Raphael Grandpa book. He said, just to make people upset, he looked at like 2 pages and he said, quote, unquote, this looks like shit. Like, I didn't go that far.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
I told you when we were doing it, it's not his style. He would not. He probably would love this art. But again, I don't think so. We'll see. But we'll go off now to whatever. There's not a lot of books this week. Whatever. It might actually be. I think I'll say it. I'll call it now. We're going to go off to a lighter side of the podcast. We're going to go off me and Luke Hollywood, hopefully, because he's on a bit of a holiday, but he's supposed to do it. A little Bat Baby. If not, it'll be me talking Bat Baby, but we'll be back with that in just a moment. Full out continuity, as I say all the time, and I'm glad you're back, Eric, because now I can use songs like that. It doesn't really work. It's like, all right, here I am with Simon. After singing,
I think I got my first comic at a Gennardi supermarket.
Oh my! See, it works out.
It's kind of 5 and dime.
Correct, but your grandmother got it for you. You told me that. So
yeah, I couldn't buy
take
shit.
That. Take that, really. I still can't, Eric, so take that. I'm poor, is what I'm saying. Or am I just broke? I might be both. Here we are. I'm a broke-ass old man. That's what I am, Eric. And here we are with one last book for the night. Speaking of broke-ass old men, we're going to be talking a little Superboy. Makes no sense. And the weird play when people were going on and on about the Mags of Saggio backup story in Action Comics last week, I think it was week before, whenever it was the idea that it did seem to really go against the whole concept of pretty much the mission statement of this book. And somebody asked her and she's like, oh, they're not connected. And you could tell that was obvious. But all in all, this idea of us going through this whole what was a round robin, it was okay, though. We still were kind of enjoying the concept of it. It wasn't playing out great. You ended up wanting the Cosmeteers to be a little more bigger and better.
I'm telling you, by the end of this whole thing, Superboy should still be able to have his Cosmeteers out there in space that he goes and hangs out with every once in a while. Just like Superboy, Clark Kent as Superboy did with the Legion of Superheroes back in the day. This was Connor Kent's Legion of Superheroes in space, a ragtag group of clones just like himself. It would have been so cool, but we don't get to do that by the end of this issue.
And it would have been easy enough to do it. You could end up, because, they end up doing bad things. Don't let those, but make it so that...
Maybe we need new Cosmeteers.
But you don't have to have them be straight up murderers. That just ends up being...
But they are.
You want to have, the big bad there, but the other two... Yeah, Trav being he could have just been the one who took it too far. The other two are just like,
Rotor and Puro together, and you could add more to that whole thing. Like, it could have been good, but by the end, it's like, oh no, you're gonna be doing better for the rest of your life behind bars, thinking about what you did.
And I believe it was Puro, and she's like, oh man, because hey, you're gonna be able to go behind bars, but you'll find that nice person within you. And she ends up saying, I'll be glad to talk to her when, in a weird way that confused me.
I'm telling you, the dialogue and narration is something I don't mind the story. I think it's pretty cool, especially for what it could have been if it actually led to Connor Kent being who he says he wants to be by the end of this, even though at the Action Comics backup we have makes it look like he's just going to dye his hair and that's him moving on.
Again. Yeah,
it's weird. It's funny, but this could have been so much better than it was and added so much more depth to the Connor Kent character to make him separate than from the rest of the Superman family, especially now that since we have a John Kent out there doing Superman stuff.
Yeah, and maybe you could have made the play. Now, again, the United Planets quarantine Earth seems to be a lantern thing, but is it just a lantern thing?
No, it's not, because we have a lot of things. Even though I'm saying even the Legion of Doom can't do boom tubes off planet or anything.
That's the whole play, and that's where I said when we talked about that earlier, that makes it bigger because, it's not just that. So you might have been able to continue on and have Connor just unfortunately, hey, I'm stuck in space. I got to do this.
If you could have tied this in better, because it's a round robin story that was written before anything that DC had plans on doing for the DC universe than what we're dealing with now. So when you have that, if you could have tied it in better where he's out in space, he wants Kalex to teleport him back, and he can't. Kalex says, for whatever reason, we can't get you back. You have to stay out there in space, and he forms his own Cosmeteers. And I'm not saying you get your own Superboy book where it continues on like that, but you could. Almost like Superboy's own Mega Man.
Yeah, it would be a lot like a Mega Man. And so maybe that could have been something. I do like, though, in what little synergy you have, when he does go back to Earth, he's like, you know what I think is cool? Trav's little red streak. I think I'm gonna give myself one there because
that's all I thought about.
I'm like, why is this so weird?
I'm telling you, the idea that we have our bad guy Trav, who becomes the cyborg Superboy in this story, and he has a streak through his hair, a red streak through his hair, and then Superboy goes and does the same thing to himself in Action Comics. That is pretty much the same thing as Robin going to Earth 3, realizing the evil version of himself calls himself
that's
Drake.
What I was just going to say.
I'm going to call myself Drake.
Yeah, it really felt like Drake. Is what it is. It's like, I'm going to get that thing and kind of read back. It's very odd. But you even have this in that play. And when me and Rocky talked about the last issue while you were gone, and at the end I did get all excited. Oh my God, it's his, cyborg Superboy. That'd be kind of cool.
It's cool.
And in the meantime, you ended up having Rocky get excited. It's like, oh my God, because they had talked, him and his buddy Jace had talked to Kenny Porter at that point, and Kenny Porter's like, I hope that people understand that I'm trying to set up a cyborg Superboy, but he wasn't allowed to say anything about it. So then we're talking about it, and I brought it up, and he not blew his mind, but he's like, did I actually accidentally say? I'm like, no, it's just, that's what it seems like. It's like, that's what he was going for. So I thought I was smart, Eric. Whenever I feel smart, I'm all excited with it. But when you get into this issue, I don't know, it just kind of lessens because we're just going to get out of this. And it is a shame with the Cosmetiers. You give us the credits, and then we'll jump into this.
Superboy, The Man of Tomorrow, number 6, written by Kenny Porter with art by Janoy Lindsay and Lucas Gattoni. And in this, the idea is we're going to have our final showdown with Trav, who's now turned himself into the cyborg Superboy, because if you remember before, he was a Daxamite clone, but taken away all his powers, so he would never have the Kryptonian powers that he felt he deserved. So he put himself in a new body, one of Connor Kent, and also imbued with the cybernetics that the Daxamite were doing, even with him. So now he's the cyborg Superboy. He now has all the power in the world that he ever wanted. He's going to take down that little flea that's been in his freaking, biting his ass this entire time. That's Connor Kent. But we have the rest of our Cosmetiers, Pyrrha and Rotor, coming to their senses about what they've been doing, and they're going to fight along Superboy against their former leader, Trav. And with that, it's just such a weird idea because you have this final showdown. It's the final countdown to the final showdown. And what you have instead is like, oh boy, I look at Trav and I realize it's just this inner narration that Connor has is just so out of nowhere. I'm like, why are you focusing on what you I've been focusing on the past when I should have been focusing on the future. I'm like, you're fighting for your life, Connor. This feels so weird and out of nowhere. It's almost like Kenny Porter realized I really have to make a point to the story that I'm writing, and I have to make sure it's like people understand what I've been trying to do with the character. So it's so out of left field.
Well, and you said that, and that kind of gives in my mind exactly what Rocky said to me, saying the idea that he was setting up a cyborg Superboy, but he was afraid that people weren't really getting it. I think that he kind of has that idea for the whole story. So to end it, he ends up going really over the top with the narration of, oh, I'm fighting myself, I'm doing this. And it's like on repeat at points. And in that, again, why wouldn't you have had, you would have thought at the beginning, too, that Trav, by the end, while he is a straight up murderer and villain, but he'd have that redemption moment, or at least realize what's going on. Just a straight up fight. And it is a shame, Pyrrha and Rotor, because it's a struggle to get new characters out there anyway. And like you said, you may not have a Connor Kent Superboy book even, but what you do at the end pretty much just slams the door on them. It really seems like they can't end up doing something unless you go way down the line or some weird play. But even then, when we were talking earlier, when you do have, because really it is just a fight back and forth with Trav, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to take it.
Even when you have this, it becomes this ultra spectacle kind of thing. It's almost like Goku versus Goku Black here from this Dragon Ball Super, because when you have Trav's like, I'm finally going to take you out with this gigantic Kamehameha wave, and it's like, oh boy, I should not be able to do this. Nobody should be able to stop this wave that Cyborg Superboy is about to hit. But you know what? If I push myself with my TK powers, I'll be able to do this. And you even have this whole thing where it looks like he almost goes like Kaioken times 10 and is able to push it back at him and destroys him. But that's the final thing where it just is or it makes you, all you think of is Dragon Ball when you look at this final battle between Trav and Superboy. And it's kind of anticlimactic because you have still pictures here and it's just not that cool, overwhelming, almost like when Gohan took out Cell in the Cell Saga. That this overwhelming feeling of it, because look, I love Dragon Ball stuff, and that's all I could think that when I see this final battle, because I tell you, these are just Kamehameha waves going back and being pushed at each other until he yells even louder, becomes Super Saiyan 13, and is able to push it back on Cyborg Superboy.
And really, what you're doing here is the whole play up to this, and then you get into this, and 7 pages in, you get the big wave, and then it basically is Trav didn't.
And Trav is burned to a crisp. But the thing is, there's no identifying marks on his body anymore besides for char and cinder. He's still alive somehow. My ass, he's still alive. What the hell are you
he wants to be killed.
You're covering your ass by saying that.
Very odd. So this is where, and I said when we talked about earlier, the Green Lantern Corps shows up. And this is a weird play. Because you end up, it looks, there's Guy, there's Kyle, you have a bunch of different lanterns, and they're like, hey, you're under arrest by order of the United Planets. And they have a asterisk, and this says this takes place before. And we knew, remember this book was that weird play? It almost played out like the Super Sons book back in the day after they aged up John. But we're going to have this real quick series that happens in between the thing to get
even
the
this
deal.
Series, because what we have with this series, this takes place before Action Comics number 1050.
So obviously this probably does take place before Green, but why when you see the Green Lantern Corps show up and say, you're under arrest by order of the United Planets, why do you need an asterisk and an editor's note? Because that really is kind of what's going on now. And in a weird way, I think that in the background, we're seeing that when we find out Guy and Kyle aren't actually on the Green Lantern Corps under the United Planets. Something is up with them. I don't know. I just kind of why would you have to do that?
No, it's weird. I get you.
It's weird. So you end up having it. And again, I'm waiting for this moment of, well, we're going to let you go, or maybe, Connor, we trust you, and you could end up watching over them. They could work off a release program. Nope, right to the side cells done.
I'm telling you, it is the most ridiculous thing, because like you have these characters here, they were pretty much born to be weapons. They were slaves for the freaking Dominator X and stuff like that. They broke out. They were trying to do some good, traveling over the top. They followed in suit and ended up killing a Green Lantern to try to save like the Cosmeteer's face for what they were doing, and trying to make things better and just take down the Dominators. But they killed a Green Lantern. So it's just kind of, you know what, guys? I bet you're really good people. And you know what? If you have time to think about what you've done, I'm sure you can aspire to even more greatness. And I'm just thinking the entire time, he's doing this rah-rah speech trying to get them to be the best people they could possibly be. Even when the Green Lantern Corps showed up, I'm like, yeah, you're in a science cell the rest of your life, and they ain't big cells. You're done.
Yeah, you're done. And the weird plague is this.
Good people or not. I'm like, look, Pyrrha, Rotor, I believe in you. I know that you didn't want to do this. Your ass is better run now. I want you to make a break for it. I even maybe want Connor Kent to make a diversion for your ass with some tactile telekinesis.
Yeah, I'll help you. I'll end up because they're coming
because they
for
did
you.
a bad thing, but your ass is going to go in a science cell for the rest of your life.
And maybe you could have, again, they did kind of murder a deal, but you could have just put that all on Trav when you originally did it and have them just being these.
No, I agree.
They ended up being unwitting accomplices.
Exactly.
At the point
I need them to be dupes that were just doing what they thought they were right and didn't realize how bad it was getting.
Exactly. And you could have played that. And then you could have had even so, because you have the Green Lantern Corps coming down, Connor could still think, well, they're going to take you away anyway because of this. Listen, I'll make a distraction. You go, and they do get away, and that would be cool because them in a science cell, them off, we probably won't see them ever again anyway. It's really
I want them
not
to be
going to do much.
space outlaws that are going against the United Federation of Planets that are still trying to do good outside the law.
Yeah, because really, in my mind, I mean, they're going to go in the yard. They're going to start pumping iron.
There ain't no yard. There ain't no yard.
I like the idea that they're like back to back, but they're in the cells. So they're there. They're like, hey, there's a gumbo.
You see how small those cells are? That's their life now.
Yeah, it's bad. And then you have, it's a weird play because, again, you love Connor, one of your favorite characters. So he's there, right? Looks a little Han Solo-esque with all this equipment. He's like, you have a lot to make up for, but just remember, starting today, you're a whole new person. And then you end up having Pyrrha's like, when I feel like I can forgive myself, I can't wait to meet her. I'm like, who's she to? Oh, she means herself. They zip off in these things, and it takes Connor 3 seconds. He has already forgotten about it.
Well, that's the end of that chapter.
Oh, well.
Back home I go.
It's almost like at that point, he's like, well, what is he? I tweeted something out, and I said it out loud.
Oh, what were their names again?
Hashtag kids that hung out with me.
Hashtag change.
It's so funny that it doesn't even take a paddle. He's like, oh, they're gone. Oh, shit, I got to get back to my family. And then you even have those, hey. And it's funny, too, when you end up having these kids there, right? You got the regular kid with a really bad haircut, and then you get the Cyclops. I like to call them Clops. You end up where they're like, you risk your life for us.
I like to call them Clops. Why not Cy?
It's Clops. Because when he runs, he sounds like he's a horse. He's clapping around. He's an asshole. Plus, who likes anybody who runs around with overalls? Hey there, farmer Clops. Get the fuck. You end up where he's like, hey, you risked your life for us for a planet everyone else wrote off. Who are you? And then he ends up going, a friend, and winks. So I'm like, they're like, never heard of any hero named a friend. I want there to be a story on the side.
It was a great callback to Superman.
I want there to be a story now, though, on a side that this planet starts worshiping a friend. They think that's his name. They start doing wacky shit. Everybody's winking at everybody because that's all they know. So he ends up going back, and he's like, hey, KLX, cool. I want him to actually yell, like, KLX, you kind of sold me out at points here, but okay, they're back on the Kent farm. And the weirdest play of this is basically, in my mind, it's like, hey, Connor, get over here. Like, take off that bullshit coat and put this coat on. Just got another coat. It made me giggle.
You think that's the weirdest play because he comes back and gets that new Action Comics uniform that we see him wearing in current continuity. The weirdest play is that we're having a big Kent family barbecue with the Superman family to welcome Connor back. There's no Lois Lane. There's no John Kent. Those fuckers are like, not part of my family.
Yeah, now think of this. What would that be before 1050? I think Steele's there. Lana's not there. She's not allowed.
The Super Kids are there. The Super Twins are there. We have Kara there. We have, both versions of Steel. We have Keenan Kong there. We have the Kent, Ma and Pa Kent. No Lois and no John Kent.
No. Well, here's the thing. You know for a fact, both of them are just party poopers. They're miserable pricks. They end up, when they show up, John's going to start yelling something about, we should be out saving this thing. Like, shut up. And Lois is like writing a story or something. So they want to actually have a cool barbecue, not a Debbie Downer barbecue. And you do have a play, me and you both said that there's a word bubble in here that it should be Cal, Superman, saying it of, you're like a big brother, you're like a brother to me. Yeah, and he's like, I'm the big brother. And when I read it first, I'm like, I think something hit your head in space. Like, what's going on? And it's definitely, it was messed up. But it's a nice moment.
With this idea of this, big family picnic that we're having, welcoming, or barbecue that we're welcoming Connor back and stuff like that, showing that he matters to the family. Apparently not Lois or John, but matters to the family. It's just funny when, he's sitting there next to Kara. It's like, so what's the deal with that bracelet? Aren't your planet hopping days over? And all I could think of is like, ... you filthy clone. Because of this, how Kara grew up, the idea of clones is still in the back of her mind. She can't get over her bigotry of cloning.
That would be hilarious. Like, hey, ...
you filthy clone. That's how I read it.
I actually, they're like, listen, we're going to give you a new coat. Now, please find Vince Neil and give him back his pants. These
pants are so cool. How dare you?
They're so crazy. They're
the best.
But yeah, he ends up with that.
Those are just his original pants.
Yeah, I'm telling you, though, at this point, they're upgrading the custom. This kid has been wearing the same clothes for 20 years. He's got to stop. Get something else. I wish he said, like...
You just want him to go back to the jeans and the T-shirt?
Yeah, maybe. He's like, this coat's okay. It's just get a little less spikes than I like. And they're like... Actually, he's
spikes
like, this is good.
You shouldn't have
He's
those.
like, this is good. Every time I get tired, I end up, like, my head goes and hits one of them damn spikes. It's the worst. But yeah, that coat, actually... You don't understand. They said, take that coat back and give it back to Nikki Sixx. See, it all works out. Motley Crue.
The craziest part is when Kara asks him about the bracelet, like, I thought your planet hopping days over. He's like, you know what? I'm going to keep it on just in case somebody out there needs me. Kalex could teleport me wherever I need to be, and he'll make sure I do it. Kalex is at this barbecue. His ass is teleported without Kalex doing anything, and Kalex has no idea where he goes. How does this bracelet work?
I don't know. And when it happened, at first I thought that Kalex was just fucking with him. Like, Kalex is there and it's like, yeah, I don't like this conversation, and sends him off this fucking planet. And you say this, how, not even just like the idea that he gets, but he is sent to like, who is doing this and knowing that this, it's very odd.
And I'm telling you, if we kept this going on, like I said, the idea if you want to do spin-off stuff because you don't have enough room to do everything with the Superman family that you want to be doing, maybe you don't want to do an entire series, maybe 6 issues. I don't know how things work because I want more than a backup. I know that, but if you have him teleported away at a certain point before the quarantine of Earth goes up, where he's trapped, then we can have that ongoing or 6-issue mini of Superboy just doing super stuff. I'm telling you, the idea of the Cosmeteers is so cool. Have him put together a team like Clark's Legion of Superheroes when he was Superboy could be so much fun.
I swear to God that he acts like, if you look at the scene that he gets sent to, it looks like he's like on like Red Rain Earth or something. They look like zombies or vampires. He's there.
You say that he's on an alien planet full of like keeping kids from whatever, like zombies or stuff like that. But they're on an Earth van.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking that
you know what I'm looking at? No, it's a van, but it ain't got no wheels. It's got them hovercrafts.
It does, and it looks like it's like a, it could be a VW bus. They want to see the dead. He misinterprets this to take them to a zombie fucking planet. They didn't really mean dead people. And actually, when you look at it...
Nobody gets that reference.
Well, I thought it was okay. It's on the fly.
So people love
in
that.
This, though, just squint a little and think of this as actually these zombies, they hit like the DoorDash and they ordered up some kids and it looks like he's delivering them like on a platter. Here you go, zombies. Like, why are they there? They're different aliens and they're all having they look like one kid's laughing. The girl's like, yeah. The other kids, like some of them are laughing it up like they're just touring around looking at shit.
Having the time of their lives surviving zombie apocalypses.
It's like the blue alien kids. They're loving it. The
I like
girls
to call him Clops.
Like it. Yeah, you end up having Horny on the side there. Looks like
there's horns, or are those just ears?
I think they're horns. He looks like that one guy in the cantina in New Hope. You know what the guy I'm talking about? The crazy looking horny guy. No, not Greedo. That other guy, like they just pan by him. And remember that guy has that crazy like smile? It's like that bat boy. Yeah, the devil guy. That's who it looks like, right? And then, I don't know, you got cool-haired girl. You got the girl on the back there. She looks like she's like, I don't know. Look at her like just peeking.
The thing is, we have these alien kids, but I swear that one is just a regular Earth kid with headphones on.
That's what I'm saying. It looks like a regular kid like, how the fuck did this happen? I don't know what the scene, it really is. I wonder what this means. It doesn't mean anything, but it's
now. I'll tell you this, because again, obviously the story is written before any kind of plans were known about what DC's doing with any of these characters.
Like with the DC versus vampires type shit?
No. With Dawn of DC is what I'm talking about. So when you have Connor Kent be teleported back to the Kent family farm for the welcome back barbecue and the Fortress of Solitude, and you see all the family there, it would have been nice for a little bit of synergy and maybe have Miss Martian there, since you were going to push him and her having a relationship that was given to us out of nowhere last issue of Action Comics.
Again, that was just something that was there for a while, and they threw it in there. That Max Sasagio. What I would have liked, though,
I just want some background. It's just like the idea that we had, though. It's like, here's I'm trying to think of characters that were just put together. Like maybe like Tim and Bernard. Like this shows something that started things off, because we're just pushed into it. Like, oh, this is a thing. No, you know what it was? Show me something like when Tim and Steph are breaking up or something along those lines. Because these things, when they're just given to us, I'm like, I want some backstory. How they meet in this continuity.
Connor's out and about, right? He's doing his thing. Things are happening. He gets back. Unfortunately for him, they have now retroed the whole identity. He has a brain aneurysm. He dies because, he doesn't have that fix that the Martian Manhunter made. He's dead, Eric. And that's what you have at the end. That's actually him in hell. He actually died and went to hell. He's trying to save some people. He thinks he's
terrible.
Cool. The Ender. But yeah, it's a shame that the Cosmeteers, we hardly knew ye. They kind of seemed, the name's great, and you could have done something with them. And it would have been, again, you still can have something, but I think that what you would end up having would be, at one point, Connor, I'm going to go see and they just see him in their cells. I wanted a point where 2 years from now, suddenly something happens with them and he has to call them in. It'd be kind of cool, but it's kind of hard the way it is. Maybe we could go with the idea of the United Planets. When they end up toppling, you get the hell out of there where nobody's looking. Or they'll just say, hey, one of those things like, they were corrupt, so anybody who got arrested at this point, we could do that, but they were murderers, so I don't get it. But what would you give this?
Ultimately, I like the art in this, and I'll give it a 6 out of 10. The thing is, I like the story. It's just that didn't really fulfill everything that I wanted for a finale to it, because even the idea of here's a cyborg Superboy to be a foe to our Superboy. I'm like, that's great. You created something good. He's defeated instantly, and it looks like he'll never come back. Obviously, he can come back to these comics, but it just feels like it was so anticlimactic for the idea that you're presenting for a cyborg Superboy. Along the lines of when you came up with Match, the Bizarro of Superboy. Great character. He can keep coming back and has kept coming back, and I love that character. Cyborg Superboy sounds great. Trav's an asshole, fine. And he hates Superboy, great. Great motivation. Just taken out instantly because of tactile telekinesis and everything with the, it just feels so separated from everything we have in Action Comics. It just, I don't know. I want the progression that they promised me in this. Then you go to Action Comics, no progression. He just dyed his hair a little bit and cries.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I mean, now he's, his big villain burn victim, Superboy.
But
no, it isn't. And it's weird because you ended up having this. It was the winner of the round robin. And at a point, I'd say that, okay, he made it bigger than what I thought it was going to be. I mean, it's still kind of isolated, but it was cool. And it went, this ending, though, well, it's kind of this is what I expected, this whole thing would be.
And the narration that he has, he's fighting man, I should punch myself in the face for how I used to be. I got to think better about how I treat myself. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're so heavy-handed with it.
And it is, he's heavy-handed pushing the idea of, him doing that. But unfortunately, and again, nothing of his problem, fault, or whatever, but having that one backup where it just looks like, okay, he's back to sad sack and this really didn't matter. It matters to me, Eric, as they say. It matters because I'd rather have this return. We have him in his coat. He's got the bracelet. He's ready to rock, and that's fine. I don't mind.
Space adventure, Connor Kent.
He kind of recharges batteries. He kind of ended up realizing that he does need his family, and they need him, and he ended up can do some good, and maybe he can do some things on his own.
I was looking for a place to belong, but it turns out I had that place all along.
I found out the power was within. I was dying to be somebody new, but then I ended up killing a guy, and now I'm not dying, and then I'm here. Isn't that
I'm
how
telling
they
you,
say it?
there was some stuff in between with our like Action Comics and stuff like that where you saw the rest of the Superman family. But like when you had that backup in the last issue of Action Comics where it was just Superboy, it's great. I love Superboy, so give me more of that. But I like to imagine like, okay, we have Connor's back. We have this big welcome back, barbecue. All our friends and family are here. And then the next morning he wakes up and is a bitch to Ma Kent the entire time, dyes his hair, and just gets back on his teen angst.
He like wakes up and he's like, all right, what am I going to do today? Like they have to keep sharp objects away from him that next day.
Where's
like,
my girlfriend at? I can't wait to tell her to probe my mind and be pissed about it.
Yeah. Hey, probe my mind. Don't ever do that again. You're sending me mixed signals here, asshole. Like, come on now. But yeah,
this isn't butt stuff. Come on.
Hey, I don't think that you want to dye that hair like a shut up, Ma. Get out of town. I'm not Clark, you bitch. Like, isn't that what happened?
Be better, Connor. Be better.
I remember that. And they're like, oh my God, wait till I tell Jonathan. Yeah, you can fuck off too. This is my story. Get
I just
that
feel like all of our Young Justice trio characters, like Impulse and like, Superboy and Robin, they all just have this terrible identity crisis right now for what they once were with,
identity crisis.
With Bart becoming, Kid Flash at the one point, even Flash, and then back to Kid Flash. Now he's just Impulse again. I feel like he'd just be the entire, the thing with that, the identity crisis that Tim and Connor are both having right now. And I'm like, none of you guys deserve this, and you should have been able to work past this, no problem.
And then he's like, where's Bart? And they're like, last we saw, he's running around with Max Mercury doing bullshit. He's just running and having
What was
fun.
he doing in the last thing? What was that last bit? Was that Night
The last thing, I think, was the Flash, where he ended up at the beginning, him and Max Mercury, the Cyber. Remember, they were trying to break the barrier?
Okay, yeah.
And he's like, I didn't see nothing, Max. I don't know why he talks like that.
For some reason, I thought it was something else besides your Salisbury stuff.
Yeah, it seems just like that. He's just running around there trying to get back and stuff like that. But yeah, Connor goes from this. I guess maybe, the bullshit, somebody ate his food. Well, he did end up spilling his coffee there. And he got pissed. He came back. He's like, fuck all of you. He thought the party was going to continue. But once he went into space, they all went to bed and he got pissed. I don't know. There is a backup that we haven't been talking about. This is a Kevin Scott Hawkman
and
thing.
Hawkwoman.
I don't know. It looks kind of exciting, but we ended up realizing these are just kind of treatments that would get, but they're not really even full stories, so we don't deal with it. You gave it. Did you give this a 6? Is that what you said?
I gave this a 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 6 as well. So that is done. What is your book of the week?
My book of the week is Green Lantern number 4.
So is mine. Everybody should check that out and give some love to Jeremy Adams, who announced just today, I believe, or yesterday, that he's going to be doing a new Flash Gordon book. And I thought it'd be really cool if he was doing a Flash Gordon book. That'd be a little more enticing to me, Eric. It would be. I like Flash Gordon's one of those things that I like the idea. You know what I mean? Hey, that's cool. It's a puppy deal, but
until you keep reading, you're like, oh, I don't need this.
It's like the idea, oh my God, the Rocketeer is great. I'm like, it's kind of got a neat kind of idea. Or like Tron. You're like, no, that's...
No, I get it. Let's get some more Tron. You're right.
Or you like that. You're like, stupid things like, hey, Goonies. I don't know.
Goonies. Monster Squad, Jim. Monster Squad.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
I saw a really cool video I was going to send to you just as an aside here. We don't usually do this, but
ever.
I was going to send because you ended up having, I guess, Robert Zemeckis talking to Tom Hanks saying this kid who's playing the young Forrest, he can't get the way that he should be talking right. You end up where you have Tom Hanks, he has this voice, and so Tom Hanks, in a brilliant move that makes the entire movie, said, why are we doing this? I'll just talk like he does. And that's that kid's normal voice. So, with the extended consonants and stuff, that's all that kid's normal voice, and it made it easy, but Tom Hanks a gem. He ended up doing it so the kid didn't struggle with trying to learn a different voice. It was a really neat video, the way it is. Neato, Eric. But here we go. Neato. That is an aside. All right. That's the anecdote of the day. Here we go with what's next week, and there's a lot of books. We have a lot of books. 2 of these will be on the Patreon Spotlight, where it is over at the Patreon, patreon.com/weirdscience. It comes out every Thursday night. Me and Eric talking about whatever 2 books the badasses pick. We like to play a game of guessing. But at the end of here, I
like to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that. I've completely lost my voice now, so I'm trying here, Eric, desperately. Batman Superman World's Finest number 20. I believe at this point, yeah.
You want some Magog?
Yeah, we're going to go back to Kingdom Come after that little interlude thing that we had. We have Catwoman number 58 continuing Gotham War.
Ooh, that Gotham War, Jim. The hotness.
It's Teenie Howard. I don't know.
The hotness.
People were throwing shade at us. City Boy number 5. We like the City Boy, right?
Sure
City
do.
Boy. I hope that we get something out of the series in this issue. Yeah, and the whole play of all of this. No, I think he actually
we already did
there.
that, yeah.
He's skedaddling out and going somewhere
and the thing
else.
Is, I was mad that Bloodhaven's spirit animal was a bat. I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't go to Amnesty Bay, because that is a hateful place, Eric. We already established that. Cyborg number 4.
What is the soul, Jim?
I don't know, because as far as I thought, last issue kind of like spelled out that all that was all bullshit. And you just end up having weird robot shit going on. But then you have Green Lantern War Journal number 2. It's a mind bender, that one. We'll see how that works out with the Revenant Queen coming to.
I'm telling you, the concept alone weirds me out because I'm like, how do we have an ongoing series with Jon Stewart as this, the War Journal, what we're dealing with, when the concept was brought to us from the dream state of Jon Stewart when Dark Crisis was going on. That was a dream world that he inhabited. Now it's all here, but that continuity still stands.
It was because it was actually, I don't know, but people are guessing that whole deal is Katma Tui coming to take revenge from a multiversal deal. It's
crazy.
Hawkgirl number 4. That book is, I know a lot of people don't like it, but it ends up where me and you liked that first issue. I'm not even making fun of you about it, because I'll wait for the next week to do that. But it had some kind, like, that book has completely lost the narrative in my mind, where I don't know if we're time traveling, changing timelines, doing this, that, the other thing. I can barely tell anymore. Very odd, but we'll see. If we get more Galaxy, I think we might. Jay Garrick, The Flash number 1. That is the Jeremy Adams Golden Age
Flash
deal.
and the boom.
Pretty cool. Yeah, like the cars that go boom from Latrim, Eric, your favorite, Latrim. I think that'll be on the Patreon spotlight. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong number 1.
I think that'll be on the spotlight.
Definitely, that's on the spotlight. Nightwing number 107.
He's a pirate.
He is a pirate of sorts. Oh my God. Superman number 7. One of my favorite books. That book is lit, as the kids say.
I want to love that book, but I always feel like I need more out of it, and I'm hoping this is like each issue. I hope that's going to be the one that really this is the turning point for me.
But Eric, it's off the chain. You got the chain, right? That was my joke. The chain's there. He's going to go wreak havoc. And Titans number 4. Yeah, Titans number 4.
Oh, I'm sitting here. I'm like, what the fuck happened in Titans? Brother Eternity.
Brother Eternity. We have that, but I think that
I got to reread that.
I think we're just kind of meandering a bit to get to Beast World. So we have that brother. No, does anybody like the idea of Brother Eternity? Do you?
Yeah,
I don't. I want to see why, Garth involved and things like that, but still.
Exactly.
We'll see how that goes. But I do think that the whole play of this Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong and Jay Garrick the Flash will be the spotlight. I always think that I'm like 100% sure that there's no way. And then they end up, those badasses, they always end up surprising you. They do. And again, if you want to listen to the show, listen to a bunch of other things as well, and even go to the level of badass and vote on the books, go to the Patreon, patreon.com/weird science. Eric, I'm getting very, very, I'm losing my voice so bad. And I had a lot of hopes and dreams tonight of doing some parody
hopes
songs.
And dreams? Did you?
That is out. Unless I decide like it would be a good play to do like a screaming song tonight. Like screamo stuff. You like that? I don't like that. But that is it. Thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks Simon and also Luke for joining us as well as all everybody listening, all you weirdos, all the Get Fresh crew.
Everybody. Boop, boop.
All right, and we'll be back next week. What do we say at the end, Eric?
Everybody have a great week. Keep it weird.
And
we'll see you in 7.
See you in the 7.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.